Chancellor, I know no one seems to want to discuss this, but if we're to be prepared for any eventuality, then it can't be ignored any longer.
Time to invest, both in the requisite surgical skills and perhaps in any industry associated with this vicious and unconscionable fad, primarily entangling, as such things so often do, the youthful and female. And I'm not taking down that tweet or acknowledging that my tweet violated the Twitter rules. Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Stuff that's in the title, right? There's probably people waiting for that.
Yeah.
First up would be, what did I put in the title? Oh, yeah. Fucking Fandom Wire, man. These motherfuckers have gotten a free pass for way too long. Are they chuds? Not necessarily. And we can talk about the nuance here and why this is really how it's a good example of how fascism fucking won the election. Because of shit like this, to be honest. So this popped on my radar because I saw somebody talking about how stupid it is that chuds are mad at Fantastic Four for being woke, the new one. And it's like, what is it? What's fucking woke about? Like, what they were always going to say that. You got, Hispanic fucking Reed Richards. When were they not going to call it that? And it's a Marvel thing to boot. So let's see. Fandom Wire has an article. I mean, I don't know for sure that this is the only one, but I mean, they have a large reach. They get shared quite a bit, right? I'm sure you've all seen them shared around various places, increasingly so over the last decade or so. Or they were founded in 2017, I think. But fuck, where'd that thing go? Okay, I'm gonna have to find the link again. But yeah, it's excellent editorial practices you got over there. But we're going to talk about why it's called that. I mean, a lot of you are probably perfectly aware, and this is the problem that we're facing today. Fantastic woke. Joseph Quinn doesn't find Chris Evans' Human Torch sexy because he was a womanizer. Do you think maybe that this was written with the intention of being as fucking, kind of outrageously phrased as possible? Yeah, it was. But I mean, it's also essentially what he said. So,
yeah. I mean, headlines are always going to.
Well, that's the nature of journalism, at least since Hearst, anyway. There's the stain that yellow journalism that Hearst's newspapers left on just regular journalism was that the headlines needed to be so fucking grabby. Right.
Now let's see if we can't figure out what you are, my little friend, and where you come from.
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
Today, I woke up late. I had something I had to do. I had an obligation, and I didn't have the time to take a shit like I normally do in the morning. But I had to just push through. And I don't mean push the shit through because that's what I didn't have time to do. I had to push through and get to my obligation. And sometimes we just have days like that, okay? And when you have a day like that and you have to shit and you got shit to do and you have to fucking make a choice, all right? You got to make a choice. Do I shit or do I do my shit? You got to do that shit. Do your shit, okay? And I don't want to be, I want to be completely clear here. When your choices are take a shit or do your shit, you do your shit. And you take that shit and you do it. All right? And that's what we have to do, morally, ethically. It's our responsibility as a human who takes shits and who has shit to do. So do your shit. All right.
Forced adversity.
Hello, my name is Dane. I'm a very professional live streamer. I don't ever use clips that aren't edited yet and have an echo situation going on. I don't do that. I don't forget where my intro is, my intro clip. None of that. I don't forget to check chat and see if there's anybody saying anything. Yep, there is. Bob of the Echo Ways. Speaking of Bob of the Echo Ways, don't echo today, Bob. Don't do it, Morgan.
My voice echoes across the millennia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My voice is here.
By the way, also just a production note, since we're doing those out in public now, Bob, don't do production notes out in public, please.
We are stacked kind of weird today. What is going on with
So I've started using this way because look, I have the freaking layouts weird, and they changed how many you can have or something like that, and I had certain ones that I custom edited. I just haven't gotten around to fixing it. That's all. This is the easiest one, but here now they're there. Actually, now we're there.
Oh, we're here. Hi, hello.
I like the one with us at the bottom too. It's pretty cool.
It was new. I was just surprised.
Ted Clubberlang. What I don't like is people who almost never show up in chat, but then whenever they do, they're very obviously makes them pretty obvious that you're like trying to, I don't know, create some kind of friction between some channels or something. I literally said the other day that I don't like Max. I actually said it pretty fucking clear and more, brazen than I've said it before. I think he kind of sucks. But anyway.
I don't know who those people are, so no comment.
It was like, yeah, I mean, you know what? You want the beef? You want the fucking the heat? I don't like either one of those guys.
Okay.
Never done anything personally to me. I just don't like the way they approach content and
just
the people that they rub elbows with.
Yeah.
They're not exactly chuds, but they are not exactly they're not exactly they're friendly with chuds. How about that?
That's gross. Wow.
Yeah. So, but that's not what this show is about. The show's not about echoes or fucking, chuds or what is about chuds actually kind of.
We touch on chuds occasionally.
Boy, are we going to touch on something today.
Well, on a higher
higher level chuds.
Yeah. I wouldn't call them chuds. I would call them washouts and rejects who are upset about the consequences of their own actions.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're also, but first, one thing I wanted to cover, it's in the thumbnail, is a thing that we'd planned to talk about on Shillcast last week, and we just ran out of time. And so, Green Day and Disturbed, two bands that, maybe your dad like if you're a younger person. I don't know. Maybe you like. And if so, Green Day's all right. And the other case, I don't know what's wrong with you. I think Disturbed is awful.
I have no strong opinions on either of them. So what's the beef here?
So the beef is that at Coachella, which Green Day played, I think they were headlining, maybe, I don't know.
Oh wow.
Billy Joe Armstrong, it's not his first time just giving his political opinions out on, and using his platform for that. In fact, they've had a couple of full albums that were critical of the U.S. and first there's like American Idiot was very critical of the wars in Middle East and whatnot.
Famously so.
Pretty good album,
Yeah, it's not bad.
I don't know if I could listen to it now without just being cast back to a time that I'm like, I don't want to be here, but anyway, good albums for the moment that they came out. So he said some stuff critical of essentially critical of Israel and probably stuff that we would agree with. I can look it up if you guys want.
As you should be free to do in America. You should be able to be free to criticize political leaders without getting harassed or threatened. But that's kind of hard for some people.
Well, I mean, so this might take a turn that you don't expect because he didn't really, as far as David Draymond is concerned, there's not really anything. Last I checked, David's response was really civil and not even shitty. It's just, whenever you hear about the thing I'm going to tell you about David Draymond, you're going to, yeah. Okay, so here's this. Billy Joe Armstrong said, God, what? No, I don't want to sign up for your stupid fucking website, man.
Oh,
get off. It's like making it blurry and I can't read it unless I sign up.
So gross. The paywall.
Yeah. This is a big material reason why right-wing media has been so successful. They don't have paywalls.
They don't paywall fucking shit.
They'll paywall.
And they don't need to because
their entertainment content. They'll paywall, but like
yeah, and they don't. The reason they don't paywall it is they don't need to. Their funding comes from elsewhere.
trying to make sure I have the. Well, this isn't even. That's really stupid.
Okay,
the
we probably don't need to know the exact quotes.
I apologize. Yes, don't know the exact quotes, but I did want to find David Draymond's quote, which should be easier because what this is doing is it's bringing up fucking Google. Fuck you, man. You suck now. It's bringing up other articles about Coachella and Green Day being the headliner, and it's something to do with Charlie XCX, which is supposed to be the like it's nothing to do with what I actually fucking looked up.
Try using DuckDuckGo. That's my go-to.
Is that a real thing?
Quack quack.
It is.
Absolutely.
I use it for my web browser and all of my searches.
Heavy metal star invites Billy Joe Armstrong to talk after Palestine call out at Coachella.
Uh-oh.
So that's what happened. It was just an invitation to have a conversation. I'll pull this on the screen so we can look at it. Very, very cordial, very civil of David Draymond. Seems like honestly kind of a really cool guy that he was willing to do this and potentially have a conversation, just chat, you know.
Sure. Oh, that's me.
That's you. That's me.
That's me. Spoilers.
Heavy metal star invites Billy Joe. All right, so there's the two guys in question here, both a couple of aged rockers.
Mm-hmm.
But they are, mainstays. They've cemented their names and legacy. They can still go on tours and make money and whatnot. So yeah, on David Draymond took to social media with an open offer for the Green Day frontman days after the East Bay punk trio made their festival debut on April 12th. He particularly took issue with the band's rendition of its 2004 hit "Jesus of Suburbia," because Armstrong updated the lyrics from "running away from pain when you've been victimized" to "running away from pain like the kids from Palestine." Wow. So fucking, wow.
How dare you? Can't see it, but I'm clutching my pearls.
Well, I mean, the question I would ask David Draymond is, are you saying that there are no children that have run away from pain? Or maybe they just got evaporated by the missiles they couldn't run away. Is that what you're saying? But I respect you, brother. David shared. Draymond, I'd love to have the opportunity for you to hear the Israeli-Jewish side of this horrific war. We just haven't had the chance to hear it, guys. Where are you hearing that? There's nobody talking about that side of it.
No one has ever platformed that point of view in American media ever.
I didn't realize you said that shit. So I'm having the Tipper Gore experience right now. It's fucking crazy.
There's And what is okay? So so you change the line to "running away from pain like the kids from Palestine."
Yeah.
What is the Israeli defense like? Okay, how?
Well, yes.
How do you How do you defend that?
He's doing the only thing you can do, and it shows how these people that are, pro-Israel at the expense of all Palestinians in this shit. They don't even see that there's yeah, well, okay, but let me explain why it's okay that kids are in pain and dying and stuff. Is essentially what it seems like he's.
That's how it comes off.
That is how it comes
Whether
off.
That's his intent or not, that's what it sounds like.
I mean, the only other thing you could do is just say that there's disinformation or something, or that there's lies, that the kids aren't being killed or something.
Well, the problem is all those dead kids are died at a certain point.
No,
I mean, they try like they did with those aid workers, but
they're all Hamas.
Yeah,
that's the official Israeli position of the Israeli state.
Is
by which I do not mean the Jewish people.
Right.
The Israeli state official position is that every single Palestinian in the Gaza Strip is a member of Hamas, regardless of their age. They have said explicitly there are no innocents, there are no civilians. So what that's an morally indefensible position,
right?
In my opinion.
And in their execution of that belief, they have executed foreign journalists and aid workers, including Americans who have been there under that. Well, everyone in Palestine must be Hamas, so we can work, it's open season.
Right. And no one within the sound of our voices should interpret this as a defense of Hamas.
No.
Hamas sucks. Fuck Hamas. They are just as fascist as the IDF, but they don't have any power.
Yes.
I think Hamas, not the Palestinian people, but Hamas would genocide every single Jew in Israel if they had the power to do so.
Yeah,
probably.
But they don't.
They don't.
That's the thing. Yeah, you've got opposing sides that both of them seem to be intent on destroying every single one of everybody on the other side. Except, yeah, like you said, one of them can do that, and the other one simply can't.
It's also worth noting when we talk about dead Palestinians. There are Israeli attacks by militias and settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank, which is not controlled by Hamas.
Yeah.
Which has no Hamas representation and is not involved in any of these terrorist attacks that Hamas has perpetrated. And the Israeli state is okay killing them too. And driving them from their homes.
Okay, but still, nonetheless, I don't like Disturbed. I don't like him at all. I think he's got the bad position here. I think it was completely farcical for him to say the chance to hear the Israeli side of this thing. That's fucking absurd. But he's got to be a nice guy to be able to offer. He offered Billy Joe just to have a conversation. That's look. That's not what's happening over there. They're not talking.
No, they're not talking about it. No.
I guess he's in that way. He's better. Oh wait. So he literally signed bombs last summer that were dropped onto Gaza. Just signing his name on some bombs.
He doesn't want to talk about the Palestinian kids because his fucking signature ended up, fragmenting some poor child into shreds. What a piece of shit.
He is the head of a group called Disturbed. So
true, but I mean,
on the nose.
It's a little bit.
Man. So yeah, while Draymond has been longstanding Zionist and fervent supporter of the continued carpet bombing Palestinians at an appalling rate over the past 9 months, the revolting display here exceeds his usual classy output by leaps and bounds. Cheapens the reality of war. True. I mean, I don't know this outlet, but they're called the New Metal Agenda, which I would not have thought that I would agree with them on much, but this seems to be spot on. Yeah. He's got anti-war sentiments in his lyrics across her career. The 2005 album 10,000 Fists critiques the U.S. war machine and the subsequent destabilization of both American families and those abroad. Yet Draymond seems to see zero contradiction between his own writing and the state of Israel's military actions that he vehemently supports in 2024 and 2025.
Cognitive dissonance is fun, and people don't react violently to experiencing it at all.
It's a hell of a drug.
It's a hell of a drug.
Yeah. This just shows how many people in America are, when it comes to foreign policy and other political issues, are working from a template that's 30 years out of date.
Or longer.
Right? Like there was a time many, many decades ago when there was more or less a power equivalence between the Palestinians and the Israelis. But that no longer exists.
Right.
There was a time when it made sense to talk about them as if they had the equal capacity to destroy each other. But that no longer exists. This guy is talking like that still exists. So he wants to advocate for an Israeli position that's been out of date for 30 years, which is the right of self-defense against genocidal enemies at their border.
Enemies that they hem into their border and won't let leave.
So in his defense, by the way, there's been several bands that lists here that boycotted playing anywhere to do with there's like a bank, I guess, that funded a bunch of these weapons and whatnot. And there are boycotts happening. That's a stance you could take too. So in response to people criticizing him, he said, "You think some clueless, willfully ignorant keyboard warriors will change my stance?" Well, I guess not, but
yeah.
I mean, you're entitled to your stance. You're still a piece of shit.
The fact that he said what he said in that tweet exposes who the fucking willfully ignorant one is,
Right.
I don't know if he's like on Twitter looking at the stuff that's intentionally designed to be inflammatory from alleged leftists or whatever, but yeah. So there's that. Fuck them.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah,
Now that I got that out of the system.
yeah.
But
He's a disgrace to metal.
That's his.
I'll
That's
just
his
say, like,
contribution.
my blanket position on the Israeli thing is that I consider the IDF and Hamas to be moral equivalents, and I want them both to lose.
Yeah.
And I think the only path forward, the ultimate destination, has to be a one-state reality with democratic rights and human rights for every citizen.
Right. And everyone being granted citizenship.
Yeah, that's like they did in South Africa. That's the only path forward.
It's the only way at this point.
And after that, nothing bad ever came out of South Africa. So,
well, I mean, the Israelis are modeling what they're doing in Gaza and West Bank on the apartheid system in South Africa. They explicitly did that. And it failed in South Africa, and it will fail here. And materially, they are already one state. It's a single state administered by the Israeli state.
Right.
And unless the Israeli state is willing to let Palestinians have their own army, which is part of the definition of being a nation state, then where do we go? They're not going to let them do that. So, ultimately, they have to end at a democracy covering the entire land of what is now Israel and Palestine, with full human rights and religious freedoms and protections for every citizen.
Yep. Otherwise, even if you wipe out Hamas, there will just be a new Hamas. It won't be called Hamas, but there will always be another group of assholes motivated by your shittiness, indoctrinated in reactionary ideology.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they're going to have, it's going to be a generational struggle, and they're going to have like huge truth and reconciliation commissions like South Africa did. And South Africa still sucks in a lot of ways, but
struggles with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but at least they're not murdering each other en masse now in South Africa anymore.
Right. So I want to.
RxNV.
I'm going to address this. So RxNV writes that or cede Gaza and the West Bank to states that are more pro-Palestinian. One, they won't because they want the land. And two, the infrastructure of those places has been so sabotaged by the Israeli government that the states that could take them wouldn't want to take on the expense.
And not just that, but the Palestinian people don't want that.
That's also
they have developed a national consciousness, and they are entitled as a matter of human rights either to a state of their own or to citizenship in a democracy with Israeli people where all of them are equals under the law.
Right.
They don't having them get absorbed by another state just because they're, I guess both Arabs or something. I don't know. It's strange logic to me where people advocate for letting some other country control Gaza and the West Bank, which is not what the people who live there want.
No,
they want self-determination.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, it's the British Empire's fault. This is all their fault. They did this.
True.
So, fuck the Brits.
Very much so. Almost everything wrong with the world today.
Fuck the British Empire.
Thank you to the British Empire at the end of World War I. Yeah.
Yep.
So, where do you want to go first?
The British Empire's fault.
It's true. Yeah, everything America did fault is just the British's fault.
All right.
All right, go ahead, Dan. Dan, I'm sorry.
Where do we want to go?
Well, what do we have? We have Daredevil and we have Skep-dicks. So want fun stuff or silly stuff?
We should stick with the tradition of getting the work out of the way, and then
I respect it.
All right, let me roll up my sleeves.
All right, let me roll up my shit. I lost my sleeves.
So you let's see. We got Skep-dicks. We also got this DOGE thing, which I think is at least worth kind of superficially looking at, even though we haven't done any real looking into it. I haven't. So this is there's a whistleblower. Is it the CSO online? What is that?
I was unable to figure that out. It was the first link I found.
This?
I've seen it. other than this is the only print source I found with a quick search. I've mostly seen it in news reporting, like on videos from MSNBC and other places. Let's see if we can figure it out, though.
Someone using a Russian IP address attempted to access the internal systems of the U.S. National Labor Relations Board using legitimate accounts set up by the staff of Elon Musk's DOGE, which will continue to be a fucking joke until we're burning ash country. A whistleblower inside the agency is alleged. So there's a whistleblower in DOGE. That's kind of interesting.
I mean, that agency was sort of bound to be a cesspool of third-party actors because they're not running background checks. They don't go through any of the procedure that federal employees normally do.
Don't background check big balls, okay?
Much less security clearance checks, which are quite invasive.
Nobody background checks big balls. All right.
So, like, of course, there's going to be whistleblowers and state assets from other countries and probably from companies. Like, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of don't believe this is true because really, like, why wouldn't Putin just ask Trump to give him access? You know?
Well, so two things: plausible deniability.
True.
Two, there is a good reason if you're Russia, because, like, yes, Trump has turned us into a Russian client state, but you still want things on that client state for leverage that they don't know you have, which is why we spy on our allies and why our allies spy on us, right? That's just...
True. I was being naive. I'm sorry. You're
it's
right.
Okay. That's just the nature of empire.
Love it.
And so, yeah, of course Russia wants insiders in Doge because it was easy to do and they've been allowed free reign over government databases and all of our personal information, and they will happily buy unlimited blackmail, probably at a bulk rate, and they're getting a great deal. Whatever they're paying, shit. It's on the...
And the point here is to provide plausible deniability to Trump.
Yep.
Right. If they find the person who did this, they can just say, "Oh, he was like a rogue leaker who was being blackmailed, and the rest of Doge is fine, but this guy in particular was the problem, so we'll get rid of him, and it's all good now."
And when your uncle tells you that at a holiday, then you can be like, "Well, they didn't do security checks or background checks on any of those people, so, like, there's more than one idiot."
Well,
what struck me about this story, though, is that I haven't seen it reported outside of the typical liberal circles. Like, oftentimes, like Fox News or somebody will mention a story like this just to dismiss it.
Right.
Yeah,
this one they haven't even mentioned it.
I bet. I mean, because realistically, like, I think that Musk isn't even super duper popular with some conservatives at this point. You know.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you'll notice how he's been out of the spotlight for the past week or two.
Yeah, after he got his dick kicked in Wisconsin, he's kind of on the outs.
His dick that apparently I've learned maybe had like a botched implant happen.
That's the word on the street.
So cool, you know. I do think that's fucking hilarious. I think that's great. I think that if that did happen, I hope it did. That shows that maybe there is some type of like cosmic force that like balances things a little bit. It's like he's a billionaire, but he can't even fucking get a dick implant without it being, you know, like he's probably got some messed up fucking weird piece of flesh hanging there. I love it.
Well, now it's free for all. All his baby mamas are coming out telling all his dirty secrets.
Nice.
And with all his billions, you think he'd be able to get a problem like that fixed? The penile problem, that is.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's tried just like bullying it on the internet, you know, but no. He's probably paid somebody else to fuck women for him. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good joke for that.
Well, I mean, he does because he uses artificial insemination.
Oh my god!
So he's paying a syringe to.
Yeah, he told his most recent public baby mama said that he wanted her and him to use surrogate mothers, like immediately.
Immediately, yeah.
Like,
so that he could just have like a bunch of kids. Doesn't he already have? A bunch of
He
kids?
already has at least, I think, 17 kids.
Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
Yeah, probably more that we don't know about.
It's almost certainly more that we don't know about. And yeah, this is, I'm gonna pull this one up from Neon Zephyr because I've heard this elsewhere from relatively trustworthy sources that Neon Zephyr says that he's also apparently using IVF to control for the child's sex. That is apparently true, which would explain.
Boys, right?
Say again.
Means he wants boys.
He wants all boys, which is part of the reason why he is upset with his trans daughter.
Which we did a whole episode on.
Yep.
Who's an awesome person, by the way. Now that she's an adult, she's going on doing public appearances, like on gamer streams and stuff, and she just seems like such an awesome, sweet person.
She seems great. Yeah, I feel bad that she's been dragged into the spotlight by her shitty father, because from the sounds of it, she never wanted, like, she just wanted to live her life.
Yeah,
which is what most trans people want to
do. Her character and, like, force of will, essentially, that she, like, rejects the fortune that she probably would have access to.
It sounds like that, because with the recent person who came out as one of his baby mamas, that, like, he, like, threatened to cut her, like, child support so that he was paying to her if she didn't do certain things for him. I don't remember the exact specifics, but, like, he is very controlling with the resources he
did, like, to the conservative lady, the conservative pundit who's a mother of one of his children.
Yeah,
he cut back the child support by, like, from 6 figures down to 5 figures,
right?
Which is still a lot of money. I mean, if I was getting 40 grand a month, that's still a lot of money. But it's the principle of the thing, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just he's completely a piece of shit, like, top to bottom.
And then there was the woman who he propositioned to have his babies, and she said no. So he cut off her whatever her funding stream is on Twitter.
Her Twitter Blue or whatever. Yeah.
So she's no
longer, like, shadow banned
her.
And, yeah.
And that was her primary source of income, apparently.
Oh shit, Jesus. Okay. Well, you know what Elon represents? He represents a real problem in the country and the world of masculinity. And an insecure form of it that is trying to presents itself outwardly. We've talked about this as something virile and strong and smarter than everybody, the biggest dick and the biggest brain in the room and everything. And when in reality, it's pretty clear that he's probably most likely one of the reasons he was so desperate for Trump to win is because he was worried he was going to face some accountability legally and economically for some who knows what. Which now, of course, he's not going to. But that's a problem with, like, these guys. They think they're so smart. I'm doing a transition here. I think they're so smart, but then they do something stupid, and it's like, something really obviously objectively amoral and shitty. And then, because they get called out for it, they kind of just take this fucking weird turn, right, with their careers or their lives, and then they become the Skep-dicks.
The Skep-dicks or the Skep-dicks?
Skep-dicks.
There's still some good skeptics out there.
Yeah.
For the most part, I think Matt Dillahunty is still a pretty good one. I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
But then there's the Skep-dicks.
There's the ones that
write books about cancel culture.
So
when there's a fucking systemic, fucking just, like, onslaught of science, like the biggest fucking attack on science ever. Really. By the government currently in power. It's going to set us back in a lot of ways for a lot of years, and it's fucked. A lot of people are going to die, but hey, culture is a problem.
So Drew from Genetically Modified Skeptic did a video on this with Hemant Mehta, who is another very good skeptic that I recommend. You can find him at the Friendly Atheist blog, and about this book called The War on Science. And you think in the year of our Dark Lord of the Sith, 2025, the War on Science might be something about how we're cutting funding to things like environmental research, weather monitoring, disease
Cancer.
Cancer research.
Childhood cancer research.
Childhood
Fuck.
cancer research. Vaccine research. Managing our nuclear infrastructure. Just to name a few. But a group of 39 assholes picked out by Lawrence Krauss, who is the editor of this book, have written about what they think the war on science really is about. And it is about cancel culture and wokeness. Because that's what's ruining science. So I'm gonna.
What's the name of the book again? Going to be
The War on Science. Oh, I want to pull
because there's already one that called that from 2016.
Yeah, there are multiple. This is. I wanted to pull this up. I want to talk about this to get started.
You know who wrote the foreword of this 2016 one?
Who's that?
Lawrence fucking Krauss.
So he already.
He's
just fucking plagiarizing a title for a book he wrote the foreword to.
Look, maybe it's a comic book series and they're just rebooting to #1 to boost sales.
It's volume 2.
Winner of the MN book for nonfiction. I don't think it's comic book.
So yeah, here let's. I'm gonna take and add this to the stage and show my. This is mine. All right, so let me see if I can zoom in a little bit.
I mean, it is a catchy title, so like I get it.
So you Google, you are on DuckDuckGo. Got my little quacker up here, little guy.
Wow.
It is. This is not the one. This is not the one. This is not the one. This is a documentary. We are 5 full entries before we get to the book page for a book coming out this year by a bunch of allegedly famous scientists.
Well, some of them are famous, but they're past their prime.
Past their prime.
Right, they're famous, like you know their names. But when was the last time, like you? I mean, I used to see stuff from half of these guys, a few of them anyway, that I recognize, like on a regular basis. I would see it going around. I don't really see that shit anymore.
And
Dawkins has contributed real
science.
He contributed real theoretical innovation to the field of evolutionary biology in the 70s and 80s.
Absolutely.
He will be remembered
for his earlier career.
For that thing alone. He will be remembered in like textbooks for generations as one of the giants of evolutionary biology.
But
he's kind of lost his mind since then.
He's kind of lost his mind, yes. So I would say there's a mix of formerly famous and currently infamous science communicators in this. And I'm going to pop up the books page here. This is the book.
They don't even have Bill Nye.
They don't even have Bill Nye, the science guy.
He is the guy.
He's the guy.
Here's a little bit of trivia for you about Richard Dawkins.
Mm-hmm.
He invented the concept of the meme.
Yeah,
right. That's
Memes true. His idea. He has this idea that ideas and concepts are transmitted across evolutionary time in discrete units, just like genes, and he called them memes.
Yep.
And he is the reason we have that idea. So thank you, Dawkins. But
also,
fuck you, Dawkins.
Also, fuck you for that, Dawkins. You're right. So
you didn't have to keep saying stuff publicly, bud. You could have just gracefully, I don't know, sat on a fucking deck somewhere looking at the forest. I don't know.
So down here is the list of all the people who have contributed, but I want to focus on the ones they highlight. So this is edited by Lawrence Krauss, and you've got Dawkins, Peterson, Pinker, Ferguson, and Sod. And I'm more familiar with some of these from the others, so I spent some time looking around the internet. And I wanted to see just the lowlights of their career.
Sure.
And the reason I want to start with the lowlights is because let's talk about Lawrence Krauss.
Oh man, that's never a good sign. Just the fact that there is a section titled that already.
Yeah.
This is already bad.
He has never walked any of this back.
He has not walked any of this back. So the reason I want to start with because yes, I will admit if someone wants to critique me, that I am starting from a point of treating these people as bad faith. And the reason is Lawrence Krauss was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, spoke very highly of him, and never walked back or criticized his behavior, even after it all came to light. And then there's the stuff below that, where not only is he friends with probably
First
the most...
of all, before you get there, read the quote in his defense of Jeffrey Epstein, because this is deranged.
This is deranged.
It's the most unskeptical thing I've ever heard anyone say about this.
I always judge things on empirical evidence, and he always has women ages 19 to 23 around him, but I've never seen anything else. So as a scientist, my presumption is that whatever the problems were, I would believe him over other people. I don't feel tarnished in any way by my relationship with Jeffrey. I feel raised. Okay, so I'm not a scientist.
Was being raised.
I'm not a scientist, but I will say that, were you checking all those IDs, motherfucker?
Right.
You know, because I was asking, how are you? 19 to 23. Okay, cool.
That's a very specific, like.
Not just that, he's relying on personal experience.
Yes.
And saying that his personal experience is a better vehicle of figuring out what's true than is the process, the scientific and judicial process we have,
right,
that resembles peer review.
Well, and also, if you think that, I don't know, I do believe that to some degree, I'm sure Epstein didn't let everybody he knew see him near the youngest age girls. Sorry.
No.
Right. Well, and I would like to point out by saying that he always has women these ages around him means he saw him around these women, right? He is tacitly admitting to seeing him around women and girls.
Yep.
Which,
I mean, look, if you're in your fucking 50s or whatever, and you like exclusively, or really even if you just do it once, or going after like an 18 or a 19-year-old, right? There's no, in your mind, I can guarantee you there's no distinction that you were going to make except for the legality of it and whether you would get in trouble for dating someone younger than 18, right?
Yeah.
Or trying to, because like, it's just, if, what are you going to, I don't know. People, I'm sorry, I got somebody in my family that fucking dated somebody much younger than him, and it really rubbed me wrong.
And if you're a man of that age and you encounter a woman of that age who is into older men, which is a thing, your responsibility is to say, look, I'm sorry. You are going to regret this if we do this.
Right.
This is going to wreck your life. You may not see it now, but I'm flattered, but I'm the more experienced person here, and you may hate to hear this, but this can't happen.
Right. Have some respect.
Right.
Whatever thing it is that's causing you to be compelled to be with a younger woman or an older man or whatever it is, to that age difference anyway, you need to go talk to somebody about it.
But as far as empirical evidence, his employer, ASU, found that by a preponderance of evidence that Lawrence Krauss had violated the university's policy against sexual harassment by grabbing the breast of a woman without her permission. As a result,
empirical evidence that he did that, though, or
not renewed in his position. Say again?
Do we have empirical evidence that he did that?
We have a preponderance of evidence, so probably, yeah. Okay. And before his... he had a position with the Board of Atomic Scientists, who placed him on administrative leave to investigate his activities.
Oh.
And then he resigned.
I just because of his dignity or something, I'm sure. Right? Like, how dare you question me? I will resign rather than let you investigate me and reveal something that I don't want revealed.
So this is the guy.
Do like the Ancient Aliens shows anymore? I used to see him on stuff like that on the History Channel.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, Krauss.
Yeah, was he? I never watched it, so I have no idea.
Aliens. I think he was on like other, maybe more reputable shows than Ancient Aliens.
Okay. He would be the skeptical voice on those, right?
Something like that.
I hope not.
But look at this. Hey, dude, you're just yelling. You're yelling.
Nah. Life Guts banned.
Maybe Todd Harrison is doing an impression of what these people say. Maybe. Too late.
We weren't even talking about Russia, so we moved on from that a while ago.
Yeah, it is in the title, but that's okay. That's not a very skeptical fucking attitude. Just because, it's literally just repeating the Trump line, man. It's fucking.
It really is. It's just very Anyways.
By the way, thanks, Jay Bird. Yeah. By the
way,
I like the stream.
I have. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, everyone liked the stream. And thanks for commenting. If you're commenting, all 32 of you, you all rock. I like most of you, except the one of you. You know who you
subscribe
are.
to Bob the Old Ways.
Yes.
Yeah. Except for that one of you, and you know who you are.
Yeah, don't do it. You know
You know who you are. You know what you've done.
Richard who? Dawkins?
I have no idea. I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I don't know or care.
I mean, that's weird.
But so speaking of Richard Dawkins, he's going to be first up on our Where Are They Now segment, because all of these people have decided to work with this guy, noted sex pest, noted friend of sex pest, and vigorous defender of sex pests.
Why was
Smoke One Kenobi banned?
Oh, whoops.
Uh-oh.
I mean, why were they?
I don't know. I don't think I did.
I didn't ban them.
I will.
Smoke One Kenobi, I don't think anyone here actually banned you. I don't know what happened. Or it was done by mistake.
I'm trying to fix it, but it's not unfixing it.
Who is that? Do we know them?
Yeah, they've been around.
I've seen them in chat before, and they never say anything like offensive or.
Yeah, anything. I have no idea. So that's been. They literally said LOL, so like I'm not even sure why it like.
Fired because of unethical human experiments. Is that right?
Oh, that one I had not.
Like one of Joe Rogan's buddies.
Yeah, that's one.
In that crew.
He's one of the. He's pals with James Lindsay.
Oh.
Who's
also
piece of shit.
A professor notorious for banging his students.
Yep. That's going to be a theme here. So speaking of banging, let's talk Elevator Gate.
Oh, okay.
And Richard Dawkins. And so in 2011, Rebecca Watson, the founder of the website Skep-dicks, mentioned that she had an interaction with a gentleman in an elevator that was a little too forward and said, like, hey, why don't you be chill? Maybe just like don't try and get invited to women's rooms at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
When you're alone in an elevator with them. Like, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
This was Richard Dawkins' response to all of this, and I will highlight it and I will read it for your listening pleasure. Dear Muslima, stop whining, will you? Yes, I know you had your genitals mutilated with a razor blade, and yawn, don't tell me yet again. I know you aren't allowed to drive a car, and you can't leave the house without a male relative, and your husband is allowed to beat you, and you'll be stoned to death if you commit adultery, but stop whining, will you? Think of the suffering of your poor American sisters who have to put up with. Only this week I heard one of, she calls herself Skep-chick, and you know what happened to her? A man in a hotel invited her back to his room for coffee. I am not exaggerating. He really did. He invited her back to his room for coffee. Of course, she said no, and of course, he didn't lay a finger on her, but even so, and you, Muslima, think you have misogyny to complain about. For goodness sakes, grow up or at least have a thicker skin.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So this is where, like, when this happened, no lie, I wrote a letter to Richard Dawkins. I don't know whether he ever received it, but I wrote one to him, to his publisher.
Sure.
And basically said, I am sorry I ever bought your books. Go fuck yourself.
Excellent. Well done. I stole his books.
I'm sorry that I've bought or read his books before, because I mean, like the information there, as far as I remember, or the stuff that I maintained or retained is still good. It's just he wasn't saying anything like this.
What's funny is I first heard of him and found out about him like right before this happened.
This is
I read his book. Well, this guy's really smart. Wow, this guy's a weirdo.
It's like he fucking just was like, oh, I'll just mention genital mutilation, and that'll take all the spotlight off of me. So
this has become a pattern of behavior with him, where when
he wasn't even the guy in the elevator.
No, he had nothing to do with this.
Taping for the guy in the elevator.
Oh, I thought he was. Jesus Christ.
No,
he wasn't even there.
Wow, that's pretty sad, man. Like, you're not even fucking desperate to defend yourself. You're like,
right.
some bros before hoes, right, Dawkins?
I guess so.
Jesus.
So in between 2011 and now, he has had multiple awards and positions on skeptical boards taken from him because of his anti-Muslim and anti-trans statements.
Man,
so
those two really they're the hang-up points for some of these skeptics, man. I don't know.
Yeah. So for further context, this letter, Dear Muslima, and this event happened at a time where there was a movement going on called Atheism Plus.
Yeah.
In the atheism community, where they were trying to say being an atheist is more than just being skeptical of religious fundamentalism. We have to address the fact that like transphobia, homophobia, racism, etc., all have their roots in religious fundamentalism. And if we only address the religious fundamentalism and don't redress these other problems, we may as well not be doing anything at all. And Dawkins was one of the people who pushed back against that.
Right.
He was part of the anti-atheism plus community. So Rebecca Watson told her story about this during that period of time. And so Dawkins inserted himself into the conversation.
Yeah, well,
and she was a proponent of Atheism Plus, by the way.
So
I think what wasn't what's his name? YouTuber I actually watch him pretty regularly still. Fucking Star Trek / atheist YouTuber.
Steve Shives.
Steve Shives.
Yeah,
well, he was part of that, I think.
He was part of that too. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So that's lucky contestant number 1.
Okay.
Here's lucky contestant number 2. His good buddy Jerry Coyne, who, like Dawkins, is I believe an evolutionary biologist.
Yes. His book "Why Evolution is True."
Yeah.
Remains until this, I would have said it remains the single best go-to source for lay people.
Yeah.
Now I won't recommend the book because I don't want him to get money, but I have it on my shelf.
Oh my God. He says trans women are more likely to be sexual predators.
Right. So Jerry Coyne says trans women are more likely to be sexual predators based on a stat published by a UK-based hate group
I've seen that
focuses on the statistics of people in prison. And
I've seen that, and I spent quite a while digging into that to find out, because at first it was kind of alarming to see that. I was like, this can't be true though. Like but the way they frame it, these fucking hate mongers got some ways they frame things, that it can catch you off guard.
Right. You have to dig into the numbers, right? It's easy to play with numbers.
Who, whenever they see something like that, they go, I don't know. I want to make sure. I want to, really investigate this and see if it's actually true. There's a word for that.
I think it's Bob. It's on the tip of my tongue. You got it? I'm just struggling.
I don't know. There's so many.
Septic? Is that what it is? They're septic?
That's it.
Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. That sounds shitty to me. Septic sounds skeptic. Oh,
Skep-dicks.
Skep-dick.
No,
oh, you have to have a dick. Okay.
We saw this information. He goes, "That's
you have to be a dick.
You have to be a dick."
Oh. So, yeah, among the problems with those statistics.
So the sleight of hand
in prisons. It's very tiny, very select sample size. There are actually fewer trans women in prison relative to their existence in the general population. An argument that suggests trans women as a whole are more law-abiding than cisgender people. It's also possible some of the sex offenses included getting arrested for consensual sex work. The 41% claim has been debunked here and here. There's links there. Yeah. But none of that matters to Coyne, who uses the exact same. Yeah, I mean.
Yep. Like literally make it black. This is the same thing where like, oh well, the black criminals. Like, well, you're only looking at this one sample size of black people who have already committed crimes are incarcerated. So like,
and you're not thinking about why is there a representation? Like, why do so many black people get arrested as opposed to? Right. I mean, because there's only two ways you can go with that, buddy. One of them makes you basically a fucking Nazi.
Yep, kind of.
The other one means that you're a leftist and you need to join in with us getting this fucking system overhauled.
So that's this guy. This guy also was removed from the board of an atheist organization over this thing he wrote and then doubled down on, and got involved in attacking a trans person who worked for that organization.
And let's drop a comment real quick about just how bigoted you have to be an evolutionary biologist and not accept the fact that sex is a bimodal distribution,
Right.
or secondary sex characteristics are a bimodal distribution and cannot be used to codify gender as a biological concept.
You really have to commit to the bit.
You have to really, really hate trans people to do that.
You do. You really do. So speaking of people who aren't very committal, let's talk Steven Pinker. Steven Pinker makes shit up. He's one of these intellectual dark web types. Big Enlightenment philosopher is what he sells himself as.
Which book is it of his this is talking about? The Better Angels of Our Nature?
This one is Enlightenment Now.
Oh. Because he did the same thing in the Better Angels of Our Nature.
So it turns out Pinker borrowed a quote from a man named Bailey, who didn't cite the original source that they took it from, and lifted the quote from its original context so that it would mean the opposite of what the author of that wanted it to say. So he plagiarized a guy who misquoted another guy to cherry pick a line to say the opposite of what the original writer meant. He's a liar and a plagiarist, and that's just one example in the book. This is your guy who's talking about the war on science, a plagiarist and a quote miner.
Okay. Yeah, he's a dipshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got famous by writing a book called The Better Angels of Our Nature, which seduced a lot of people for a little while. And the premise of the book is that despite all appearances to the contrary, we are actually living in the least violent period of human history, thanks to Western civilization. And we're actually living in the golden age of humanity right now. And he fudged a lot of his statistics that he lifted from archaeological studies about the causes of death of prehistoric bodies and stuff.
Right. That book is one that is definitely like, once people checked his math and checked his sources, it was like, oh no, you're just lying. You're just quote mining.
As long as we're entertaining hypothetical disasters far in the future, we must ponder hypothetical advances that must allow us to survive them, such as growing food under lights powered with nuclear fusion. Okay.
Which is interesting.
Or we could just, transition to a carbon-free economy that,
right. I mean, we could
using technologies that exist right now.
Right. We don't need to make up hypothetical solutions for hypothetical problems. We need to make up real we need to not make up. We need to use the existing solutions for real problems that exist today.
But there's no financial gain in using them, so we don't. That's why they don't get used.
Well, and I also think that some of these people are just invested in not solving those problems because complaining about them is good for their bottom line.
Right. Yeah. All right. Who else we got? What's who's next on the rogues gallery? Oh,
Gad Saad.
He's definitely a regular guest of Rogan. I've seen him.
He's a Joe Rogan buddy.
And I can't figure out how to. I've heard his name pronounced God Sad, which is a really funny phrase, and also Gad Saad.
I've always heard it pronounced Gad Saad.
Okay.
God Sad.
Because God is sad about Gad Saad. I can tell you that right now.
And he is writing a book on, wait for it, called Suicidal Empathy.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
These people.
Those Christians we talked about recently, right?
Yeah.
No, he's more of one of the Elon Musk eugenics.
Eugenics types, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell that in the microphone.
You're fine.
In fact, Elon Musk cited him in his quote, in his little rant against empathy and Joe Rogan.
He also, I believe, is a supporter of the Israeli government in these times.
People that shit on empathy like him and that little sect of Christians that we looked at, I have to wonder if maybe the reason, part of the reason anyway, is that they just haven't ever really been the beneficiary of much empathy. I have empathy for that. But So they're just like, oh, I don't even believe in empathy because like nobody's ever been empathetic to me.
Next on our tour of shame, as RX was mentioning earlier, we have Niall Ferguson, who is an imperialist and defender of the British colonization.
Oh, cool.
But he always has been.
He always has been. He's always been shitty.
Out of this group, he's the only one I'm aware of who has not made a heel turn into this stuff. He's always been this way.
He's been a piece of shit forever.
Yeah.
But for a guy who was talking about cancel culture and free speech, I thought this little section from his Wikipedia page was most enlightening. Oops. Let me find that again. I will read the whole page. Wow, my mouse is drunk. What the cinnamon toast fuck is going on? My mouse is possessed. Where did it go? Well, this is really embarrassing, folks.
You didn't start the stream with a fucking...
It's right there.
There it is. All right. Okay, we got it. All right. We're good. Everyone's good. Most of these are to answer Sketchy's question.
I was going to answer that too, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, what I was going to say is I don't know if they all are, but I don't think they all are exactly professors, but it really doesn't matter whenever they have the platform that they have.
All of them were, I believe, in academia at some point.
Even if they're not now or they never were, they still have a bigger platform than your average professor.
Right.
So they're causing material harm to people's fucking brains, and then trans people and Muslim people, and
So, in 2011 at Stanford University, emails were released to the public and the university administrators which documented Ferguson's attempt to discredit a progressive activist student at Stanford University who had been critical of Ferguson's choices of speakers invited to the Cardinal Conversations Free Speech Initiative. He teamed up with a Republican student group to find information that might discredit the student. Ferguson resigned from leadership of the program once the university administrators became aware of his actions. Ferguson responded in his column saying, "Rereading my emails now, I am struck by their juvenile, jocular tone. A famous victory I wrote after the Murray event," which Murray is someone we discussed earlier.
Douglas Murray?
Douglas Murray of the Bell Curve.
Oh, that's Richard Murray.
Richard Murray. Oh. Is it? Okay. Regardless.
Bell Curve guys, yeah.
All right. So now we turn to the more subtle game of grinding them down on the committee. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Then I added, some opposition research on Mr. O might also be worthwhile, a reference to the leader of the protests. None of this happened. The meetings of the student committee were repeatedly postponed. No one ever did any digging on Mr. O. The spring vacation arrived. The only thing that came of them were emails. That came of the emails was that their circulation led to my stepping down. But he sent emails to a student group trying to get them to...
Right. He still tried to do it, yeah.
He still tried to dox a student who protested him for the type of guests he was bringing. So this is a guy writing about cancel culture who has...
Free speech absolutism, guys.
Right. His version of free speech absolutism is speech for me and not for you, peasant.
Mm-hmm. All of these guys... They call them all of these free speech absolutists. What they mean by free speech is you have to listen to me
and do what I say.
And you cannot disagree with me.
Right. And that brings us to our last contestant. Dane, I've been reading a lot. I'm a little parched. Do you have some video clip you could show about our last special guest on Where Are They Now? Is Dane gone?
Honestly, I've got no shortage of stuff to look at.
Oh, excellent.
Here's here's one. Fire off this one.
Hey, Dave, time to turn on your Jordan Peterson voice. I don't know, Jordan Peterson, what you got to say about that?
What was the question?
Can't afford medical bills. Have you tried not being sick? You should.
Well, only people with weak moral character get sick.
Yeah.
If you get sick, it's your own fault.
Pretty
It is.
iconic.
It's a tightrope. It's a fine line. You start with Kermit, but you kind of have to do. I can't even describe what it is, but you got to, nudge it one way or the other a little bit to get the right Peterson.
If you're sick, maybe you should try eating exclusively meat like we did in the 50s and a good glass of milk.
The one thing you don't want to do is drink apple cider.
You will have you will have a depressive breakdown that will destroy you for weeks.
The next thing you know, you'll wake up and your daughter has put you in a coma in Russia. If I can't be a misogynist to you, I don't know what to do with you.
Mr. Peterson, how many people have gone to prison based on Bill C-16?
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who can for who.
So yes, Jordan Peterson is. We have covered him before. If you want to know about why he is shitty, you can do one of a few things. You can check out our episode about his interview with Elon Musk, which was an absolute disaster. Or you could watch some real entertainment and watch Matt Dillahunty wipe the floor with him.
We could watch some of that right now. I mean, I've got it up ready to go. It's honestly fucking magical. It's one of my
could use some catharsis today. Let's hit it.
State of being convinced that a proposition is true or likely true. It's everything that I try to do, I tend to view in the form of propositional reasoning. So when we talk about the narrative.
Yeah, that's a problem, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you can't reduce the world to a set of propositions.
Why not?
Oh. Look.
Show me something that is true in the...
Okay, look, I'm not one of these people that puts a lot of weight into, much credibility into, body language. Mainly because I know for a fact from personal experience that body language of people on the autism spectrum can be very different than neurotypical people. And like if you're a cop who's basing your decision on whether to fucking shoot somebody on stuff like that, or you're somebody that's judging someone's literal guilt in something that would send them to prison or not based on that, yeah, that's pretty shitty and stupid. Use evidence, idiot. But like when it comes to just kind of like reading somebody in a conversation, for example, Jordan Peterson's body language in this fucking thing is incredible and it just seems like he's so fucking uncomfortable. Just watch his hands. He's like literally wringing his hands.
Yeah. In this shot right here, the one maintaining frame is Matt Dillahunty. He gets the green straight line put over him.
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson is the one leaning into frame and has the slanted red line.
Does Peterson want to fuck him because he's leaning to him? So he's leaning towards his crotch, right?
Yep.
Am I okay? I've been looking at too many memes.
And Jordan is also displaying his crotch, thus demonstrating his openness to.
Yeah, he's
ready. Bob, are you telling me that when it comes to Matt Dillahunty that Jordan Peterson is submissive and breedable?
Look, this is just science. It's just science.
It's just
I didn't make the rules.
He did.
I mean, you see, like if you can draw the green line, then it's science. Also, Jordan Peterson fell for the whole. What was it? Robert Evans was really fucking with him. the Chinese
the Chinese breeding tour, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They were where they're being milked for their sperm, yeah.
Yep. The Chinese breeding porn.
He was like, "Oh, you got to do something about it." All right.
And remember, folks,
show me something.
Go ahead, hit it.
Something that is true in the world that is not a proposition. That
like
you
an
cannot
explicit,
put in
statable proposition.
Something that is demonstrably true that I could not put in a proposition.
Oh, that's easy. Okay. Sure, you want to go there?
Like he fucks himself so hard because he's like trying to be cocky. That's easy. No, it's not. Because you can't do it. But you shouldn't have said that's easy, you idiot. Like, what is he doing?
I'm not afraid of anything.
Okay. Okay.
If I'm wrong, I want to know I'm wrong. But I'm trying to. For years, I had this thing going where people would say, "Oh," and this is kind of what we're getting at from a different angle. I would say they would be afraid of what we would lose if we lost religion, and I basically said, "Demonstrate to me any benefit."
Oh, you'd lose art and poetry and drama and narrative and story.
Are there no godless artists and poets?
Well, there are artists and poets who think they're godless.
So we might have crossed over into a problem area because
no doubt.
I can't draw for crap, although I do draw during the show.
Honestly, Matt did him a fucking favor right here because he's veered away from making him, holding him to the fire on that claim about propositions. So now they've moved on to another thing. But like if he had stuck to it like he would have if he was calling into a show, then it'd be pretty bad. But really, honestly, it just gives him another opportunity to show, how Peterson's a dipshit. So that's all right.
But one of the individuals who came to the show the other night handed me something that she had spent a great deal of time drawing. She's a wonderful artist. I'm very grateful to get it. And, while I pretend to read minds on stage, I constantly acknowledge that I can't actually read minds. So I can't tell you whether or not she actually believes in a God, but I can tell you that I actually don't believe in a God, and I could write
But you act
poetry.
like you do.
Huh?
But you act like you do. That's why you didn't want to throw poor Sam off the stage.
No, now you're making a claim. Okay, so I'm telling you I don't believe there's a God. And your response to that is, I really do, because I have a moral sense. But my moral sense is utterly without any appeal to a God.
Explicitly.
Or implicitly.
Maybe. That's not so obvious.
Okay, it's really
because
it's
you regard Sam Harris as an implicitly valuable entity. Because otherwise you'd just throw him off the stage. And then the question is, well, just exactly why is he an implicitly valuable entity?
Can we pause?
Yeah, I mean the what this reveals about Jordan Peterson is fucking gross.
Is like if I don't like someone, I will push them off of a stage. Is what Jordan Peterson just said.
No, he's referring to an earlier stage in the stage of the conversation.
Right.
Something Matt Dillahunty, an example Matt Dillahunty gave.
Right.
I think.
But at the same time, he is saying that the very thing that joke that I referenced in my impression about, whenever he said he doesn't understand, well, I think it was non-binary people or something, and he's like, if I can't tell if you're a man or a woman, I don't know how to treat you. It's like
person?
What?
That's the easiest thing.
Well, you don't know how to treat a human being if you don't know what gender they are, or if they don't have one, or whatever.
What's wrong with you?
Sandy. So I mean, that's what the joke was not really a joke. Is that then he must mean that he wants to be a misogynist if you're a woman, and if not, then he's not going to be to you.
Well,
one,
how does he have conversations with customer service? Because it's just a voice on the phone. You're just kind of like, do I be mean to them? Do I be nice to them? Is it just like, oh, it's a woman, I'm going to be an asshole?
I imagine that people like him will just kind of assume whether it's based on a higher pitched voice. So
probably, but
obviously that can be either or no gender.
Right.
But these people are stupid.
The thing is, he has made this
you aren't useful to him if he can't fucking utilize you somehow.
Right.
That you're no good.
Yeah, I think the thing worth pointing out here too is Jordan Peterson has never been a skeptic.
No, not a once.
Or at least not in the sense that all of the other people associated with this book claim to be. He did not build his career on claiming to be like a debunker of the supernatural or someone who debates against theism or any of these other things. All of those people moved to his position.
Right.
He's always been where he is, more or less, where he is right now.
Did you mention it? I think that when you just hit the nail, you just nailed why they did. Other than, obviously they had lost favor in their in academia and whatnot. They probably they probably lost jobs. I know some of them definitely did.
Yeah.
But what did they see in Jordan Peterson? A pop psychologist, a pop scientist that can just say bullshit and has a bunch of people, pay him to,
Jordan Peterson makes his money telling people what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think for some of them,
science, right? That's what science is, I think. Yeah.
I think for some
skepticism.
Of them, I think for some of them, particularly Dawkins and Coyne, who, to my knowledge, don't have any accusations of sexual misconduct leveled at them. I could be wrong, but I don't think they do.
I don't think
those
they do.
two in particular, I think, were too Reddit atheist brained.
Yeah.
And felt that because their epistemology is personal testimony and personal experience is never, under any circumstance, a reliable indicator of what's true. And so when they're confronted with trans people, or the concept of gender identity, which hinges a lot on people telling you what their internal mental state is telling them about their lived experience.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys in particular, it broke them.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they felt if they conceded to trans people's self-reported testimony being true, these two felt they would have to give ground on religious people's self-reported experiences as being true to them. And that's like ground they felt they couldn't cede. So they had to go hard transphobic.
It's like apples and trans people though, you know?
So I would agree. I think with in general, what they could have done is read the science that's been done regarding studying trans people, and things like brain scans that have been studied of trans people that show that our brains are different than other people assigned our genitals at birth.
Mm-hmm.
How the reaction to what happens when a cis person takes cross-sex hormones and how that makes them feel mentally and physically versus how a trans person feels mentally and physically very quickly in that process. Secondly, this is really going to apply to Dawkins more than Coyne. But Dawkins has, as part of that like Reddit atheism brain, has always had not always, but at least within the 21st century, had a strong anti-Muslim streak.
Yeah.
And has been accused pretty credibly of having some Islamophobic beliefs. And so in a lot of ways, kind of like how Sam Harris got involved with some of these people, like he was primed to meet the Christian right on the middle because he didn't see the liberal atheist treatment of Muslim people as appropriately xenophobic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because they bought into this shit that, you know, look, I read a book, I think it was like 2006 or 7 or something that I, had not fully formed my understanding of, Islam and terrorism and stuff yet like that. There's a book that I don't even remember who wrote it, honestly, but like somebody let me borrow it or something. And it was like, I didn't get very far in it, and it started making me uncomfortable because of just all the or the straight up saying that, well, they just, they all believe that blowing people up for Allah is good. That's what you're supposed to do. And thankfully I fucking did my own research outside of that book. Otherwise, I mean, I could, I just would have gone with it, and it's silly.
And it was a slippery slope for them because the initial point, at least that Sam Harris made initially before he lost his mind,
right,
was that when religious fanatics tell you that they believe X thing and are acting on that belief, you should believe them,
right,
and not assume that they're motivated by economic anxiety or
someone should tell the Democrats that.
Not assume that they can be reasoned with. And that evolved over time into, Islam itself as a civilization, as a culture, is irredeemably toxic. And those are different propositions. But speaking of where are they now, Dawkins is now on the defending Christendom train as well.
He's been on that for a while.
Non-believer.
Yeah.
He's a non-believer, but he says culturally, Christendom is superior to all of the other cultures.
That's fucking nuts, man. Honestly, I can, in a certain context, I can get on board with saying that, actually, I don't even know that it would be true. I think Christianity is irredeemably fucking, broken and toxic at this point.
Yeah, I would argue against that, but yeah.
I mean, how so, man? I don't know.
In the United States,
I would
want to know what you meant by Christianity, because that's a very broad. That's like Islam. That is an umbrella term for thousands.
A version that has money and power that is currently or at least ushered, far right actors into power currently. The kind that Nazis ascribe to, and that kind. Yeah, that seems to be the dominant force of Christianity.
That is the moneyed force of Christianity in the English-speaking world.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for the nuance of the conversation, in places like South America, Christianity is often a progressive force. That is
in the
involved.
United States too. Like in the U.S., I was just looking at statistics today from the Pew Research Center showing that religious correlation to political ideology is far more determined by race than it is by
religion,
denominational affiliation. Like historically, black churches vote Democrat or independent by like almost 100%.
It's a huge
not going to be
amount.
Nazis, right?
What?
It is this American white Christian.
It's definitely,
identity.
and I recognize that. I do recognize that is this very specific blend, toxic stew of Christianity. I just think that it is also just I mean, considering the world's looking at us right now, like, oh, we got to fucking gird ourselves against those motherfuckers,
right?
Whatever happens here is going to influence the world. I'd say that they are. It's a pretty it's not a good outlook.
But I think,
yeah, I would agree. But I would argue that just as with Islam, we have to be specific about the type of Christians we are talking about. We can't say Christianity is the problem. We have to say white Christian nationalism is the problem.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah, true. Because I would never want anybody to think that I meant like, let's just knock off any Christian we meet.
I don't think you mean to knock off anybody. So I think an interesting example is what happened yesterday with the Pope and J.D. Vance. I don't know if either of you heard about this.
Yeah, I did.
J.D. Vance went to the Vatican for Easter because he's the vice president. He can just do that because he's a very devout Catholic, and he was supposed to always been for the last 4 years ish. Yep. But the Pope delayed a meeting with him and instead sent his right-hand person to give him a lecture about compassion. So, like, probably the most famous Christian to the world is telling the face of American Christianity, which J.D. Vance is. He's the most powerful, devout Christian in America, to fucking fix his heart or die.
Yeah, which ties into the point you made a little while ago. Then in the third world, very often Christianity, a version of Christianity, because we have to be specific there too, is a galvanizing force on the left, particularly in South America. Most of the leftist revolutionary movements in Latin America are led by Christians. They are religious movements as well as political movements. And that's increasingly true in Africa as well.
Yeah. So
and that's because of the lived experience of oppression tying into oppressive narratives in the Christian tradition. Whereas people with power, when they try to be Christian, try to claim those narratives, they have to pretend they're being oppressed because they can't reconcile the cognitive dissonance of being the emperor, but following a creed that convinces them they're not in charge, right?
Yeah. To Dane's point, I do think there is a rot in Christianity that Christianity as a cultural movement needs to reckon with.
Yeah, for sure. I don't want to imply, I'm not trying to imply that like all Christianity outside of white Christian capitalism or
that too
is copacetic. Not at all.
No, yeah.
But in the current political moment, if we speak about American politics and say Christians or Christianity is the problem, we are alienating and cutting ourselves off from alliances with religious people who are against all of that too.
I also think we're letting them have Christianity, and I don't want to let them have anything. My opinion is to not cede anything to them.
Here's what I think is I agree with you, Bob. I just also think that if I were to say, there's a problem with the dominant version of cultural white nationalist Christianity that's going on, and then like some Christians who aren't that are like, well, don't you mean like get all defensive? It's like, no, you need to recognize to Morgan's point, like this is a problem. You shouldn't get defensive. You should fucking, the first thing that you should do is not just jump to, distinguish yourself. Just agree. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's a problem.
I agree. It's on them. It's on Christians who are against Christian nationalism.
Like
it's on them.
The version of Christianity that I represent, blah, 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 and then you can kind of lay that out. But like, I think I don't want to ever have to fucking, if you're I'm not talking about you, Bob. If somebody's a Christian and they come at me all hostile because I say something like that, I don't trust your fucking, I don't know. I don't just off on a bad
even
foot.
Further than you.
You shouldn't jump to, anyway.
Yeah, I would go even further than you. And I would say if someone is a Christian and they are on the left and they are against white Christian nationalism and they hear you say what you just said, they need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Because and they need to like direct their political energies towards refuting Christian nationalism and not towards refuting the atheists. The atheists are not the problem.
Right.
The atheists are your allies.
Right.
And if you start arguments with them because they weren't precise enough for you, that's a you problem. That's not their problem. Christians on the left need to live out the gospel and as they interpret it and demonstrate compassion, love, political liberation, feeding the hungry. Just do the work and let the war of ideas take care of itself.
Because I think a centrist or Christian on the left who is going to argue to defend the broad Christianity against an atheist is wasting their time. Like,
right, because it ties into the false narrative that Christianity is under attack from the left. Right, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
this is not a war over the fate of Christianity or Western civilization or anything like that.
After all, there has been one pretty credibly determinable atheist president, and it's the one in the White House right now. And Joe Biden, who's probably one of the most visibly Christian presidents, Jimmy Carter, one of the most visibly Christian presidents.
Yeah. I'm not sure Trump is an atheist in the strictest sense of the term. I think he's just a narcissist.
Well, yeah, I think he doesn't believe in a God because he doesn't believe in anything. Yeah. Like he has no guiding principle besides his own greed and his own fellatiating. Sorry, I didn't mean to stampede on you, Dane.
No. That's completely. I was talking to my partner anyway. It's fine.
Cool. Hi, partner.
What I needed to say, and that was it. I'm glad that we all are in agreement there.
Yeah, we are.
We know responsibility who that belongs to.
Yes.
And I appreciate Bob for being. I mean, I know you don't. I don't know if exactly you are a Christian, but you are. I don't want to call you a Christian apologist, but you are.
He's a scholar of Christianity.
You know, you represent what I've always held should be what I took from it when I was learning about it, and have increasingly throughout my life been surprised to realize, oh, not everybody, in fact, very few, seems like see it that way.
Yeah, I would just say that I have been in my life, I have been at every point on the spectrum of belief and non-belief, and I decided years ago never to talk about it publicly wherever I was at any given moment, because it's not the point.
No,
it's not helpful to building coalitions or affecting like positive moral or political change in the country. So it doesn't help to get into like Reddit atheist debates or Theobro debates online or anything like that. So I don't see the point in doing it, so I just don't talk about it.
Yeah, for me, I think it's one of those things that like I don't see American evangelical Christianity as a religion as much as I do a political organization.
Yeah.
And I am more interested in their politics than their theology, because their theology is inconsistent as fuck by design.
I think there's my thing boils down to like I pretty much agree with what Lucifer says here. That is a inherent problem in my opinion.
Yeah.
But kind of tangential to what that says is I just believe that if there's versions of probably every religion that can coexist with a secular world and can acknowledge, you know, scientific empirical evidence as being, you know, doesn't go against what I believe. I know that, like, for instance, like Jews, ironically, they pretty much don't have any problem for the most part with, you know, unless you're Israeli government, but you know, they don't have any problem just existing in a secular world. It's all fucking good for them. But like, I know there's Christians that do it too, and there's Muslims, I'm certain, that do that as well. But so that's one thing. But like, I don't know. It really, I struggle to, if your brain is capable of accepting certain things that I think are objectively false about every religion, established religion, and you are going to appeal to some thing that you can't literally appeal to based on any kind of empirical evidence or data or anything, then I just can't help but suspect what other areas you might do that in. You know what I mean? So like that makes me mistrustful in a way. And I know that's but
I think the corollary to that, I think, is Richard Dawkins.
Yes.
Richard Dawkins is an avowed atheist, and I think we all agree on that. But he believes and perpetuates some heinous shit, independent of his atheism. His shittiness and his religion are unrelated.
Yeah.
His political affiliation with Christianity is political. And I think that's sort of the problem with religion and church and state, is that like when a religion becomes a state organism, and I don't just mean like a religion, like a theocracy, but I mean like something that tries to exert political power on scale, it is no longer a religion because its primary motivation is to influence the political system. It is now a political party.
Yeah. Well, this all gets into like a much deeper conversation about what is a religion.
Yeah.
Because
like,
and like in this conversation between Jordan Peterson and Matt Dillahunty, we see it on display. In a lot of ways, they are both making a category error when talking to each other. Like Jordan Peterson is operating on a definition of what a religion is that is fundamentally different from the one Matt Dillahunty is using, and neither of them seem to realize what they're doing. Like sociologically, a religion isn't about belief. It's not like religion is a practice.
Belief is part of religion, but it's not about.
It's not necessary though. Like a religion is a tradition of practices that bind a community together and with a shared narrative and rituals that tie them to the past and give them a sense of feeling like they belong to something bigger than them, and so forth. So the specific doctrines of a religion for this definition don't matter. And in that way, it's more akin to like art or literature, right? Talking about proving it true would be like saying, can you prove Shakespeare is true? Or can you prove Superman is true, right? There may be truths in it, but the function of it is not to convey empirical claims about reality. Whereas other definitions of religion, like the one Matt Dillahunty uses, boils religion down to sets of claims about empirical reality that cannot be empirically demonstrated. So when those two people, two different definitions of religion, are talking to each other and they don't understand that they're using different definitions, you get useless conversations.
I do think though that Jordan Peterson believes that that might not be his definition of religion, but he acts as like the way he talks about religion and how like you're secretly a Christian, you just don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
Is speaking to something he believes to be empirically true and empirically true of the universe and of humans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to like accept that, not entirely both sides of it, but like if I am criticizing Jordan Peterson's what he says, he is saying and acting as though Matt Dillahunty's definition of religion is true.
Yeah. Well, Jordan Peterson is gesturing at the sociological understanding and the evolutionary understanding of what religion is and how it works by like arguing that the Enlightenment values that Matt Dillahunty ascribes to are themselves the product of Christendom, which is sort of true.
Is almost adjacent to the truth.
Intellectual history, like just as all birds are dinosaurs, but not all dinosaurs are birds, because birds contain all of the evolutionary traits, conserved traits.
By that same line of thought, then Enlightenment values are also Muslim, because a lot of the
absolutely.
Right, but Jordan Peterson would never admit to that.
Right. I mean, so like what he's saying is essentially he's basically, because he's talking about, he literally started by essentially accusing Matt of being secretly or unconsciously, believing in God, but that's not what y'all were just saying. And I agree with what y'all are saying that he is gesturing at, but that's not even the same thing. That's like saying, you believe in God because people in the past believed in God, or you're in, it's a cultural thing. It's not even a literal individual's belief system based. It's fucking stupid. He's insane. He just says shit. Like I don't know, maybe he believes what he's saying is somehow relevant to what was being discussed. I don't know.
I believe this is pre-coma Peterson. So I think he does. Okay, let me back up. Let's talk C16. Jordan Peterson is a professional liar.
Yes.
That's how he got famous. He's never gone back on it.
Right. He is by trade, starting then, a professional liar. So everything he says, every word out of his mouth needs to be taken in the frame of this man is a liar for money. A liar for Christ.
He went viral. He started way I first ever heard of him, and I think a lot of people was those on college campus or whatever, just standing around with the students around him, and he's just preaching and talking shit. And that's how that is what he has strived to maintain and to have a larger level of the whole ever since then. Is just young people that fucking think that what he's saying is just profound wisdom, and and then the people that are getting upset about it, those are the people that he doesn't like anyway. So.
Yeah, I think we are now officially far in the weeds on this.
Yeah.
Oh,
we are way in the weeds. So,
but not really, because I, like you said earlier, that you think Dawkins' transphobia is independent of his atheism, and I don't think that's true. Atheism is a lot of different things, just like religion is a lot of different things, and the foundation of Dawkins' atheism is fundamentally flawed, unlike the atheism of Matt Dillahunty or Rebecca Watson, who see the connections between bigotry and religious fundamentalism operating even in the minds of people who are not believers.
See, I think
Dawkins doesn't.
Richard Dawkins does see the bigotry that operates in religion as it regards to Islam.
Yes.
And he tunneled in on that, and then that sort of expanded into a broader hate of.
This gets into what I think.
What I mean is
go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
Go ahead.
What I mean is that Dawkins has not unpacked his own suitcase Jesus. He doesn't. He doesn't see the religious bigotry that he internalized as a kid operating inside himself.
I think I know what it is. With the barrier that prevents that from not, and anybody that ends up in the situation where they're like typically or in other contexts, they are like a liberal minded or even progressive minded person. And then they just bump up against something. What I think that thing is that they can't get past is privilege.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to accept that they have that. They don't want to admit they have it. So like for my good friend, Chris, we were friends from, when I moved schools in 7th grade, didn't know anybody. And this dude sitting next to me in my English class, we immediately hit it off. We're just fucking joking around. We ended up, growing up through middle school and high school and after being just best friends, hanging all the time, watching movies, stuff like that. We were buds, and we, pretty much agreed on more or less everything. He was a progressive-minded person. His mom was a super progressive, awesome lady. She's my adopted mom, as we said. And I guess it was like right after I'd started YouTube, essentially, where I'd, really gotten more into not just looking into subjects like, trans issues and stuff like that, but being more confident with speaking in advocacy for, the rights of trans people. And I think it was the episode of South Park that because he's a big South Park fan. He fucking loves South Park. And we got to the thing, and I said, I was saying that, like, they've done a couple of things that I just think is not really, because he would still spout the thing like, well, they go right down the middle. They give it to everybody. And I was like, well, if that was actually true, I'd be like, okay, sure, that'd be another topic to talk about. But like, that's not really what they do in some cases. And I talked about the episode with the trans athlete that was essentially just Macho Man Randy Savage. And yeah, it's just literally an impression of Macho Man Randy Savage, but it's a trans woman competing in sports against these little tiny women. And I was like, that's not going down the middle, and that's also not harmless. You know what I mean? And he there was a couple other things that kind of around that time too. We would talk on the phone. He was back in my hometown, but and it just became clear that like, oh, where I've kind of, especially recently, gone like examined some of the things I assumed was true, and so on and so forth. He just doesn't want to do that. And when it comes to something like his precious South Park, or just believing that he's of the the unbiased mind or whatever kind of thing, he's not exactly like a intellectual, Reddit atheist or whatever, but it's close enough. And that's when I really started realizing that people have a problem with just kind of examining their privilege on things, and they don't want to make their own life uncomfortable. They don't want, not even for a minute, not even like to think about, oh, I might have assumed some stuff that's untrue. And maybe that has something to do with not wanting to feel foolish, which I kind of relate to. It's I don't like feeling foolish, but that's what drives me to explore if I believe is foolish things. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence that almost all of these people are white men, white cisgendered straight men.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, people don't. You covered it. I'm sorry. I'm recovering from something that happened earlier today, so I have. I am seconding your thing, and I'm good.
All that's left to do is to say that all of these motherfuckers, all of them.
That's quite the jam. I like that song. Just like rocking out.
It's a good song.
It is.
It is the legally not copyrighted version of a song that I really like.
There you go.
Let's see if what does Boss Nass think though?
Maybe we start being friends.
It goes on like that for 20 seconds or so.
So are you telling me that Boss Nass is Gavin Newsom?
I think so. Yeah.
I was going to say, are we moving on to the actual Quisling of the week, or are we having all of them the Quisling of the week?
We can move on to that, but before that we do, because I'm about to have to leave the computer for a second. But first, it has happened. An event has occurred. The happening has happened, as in the clouds have parted, and he, capital H, he has descended and granted to us a very short clip. That's right, hippo clipped.
Oh,
whoa!
We got a hippo.
Hey, we don't actually know hippo clip's gender.
That's true.
Vaughn have dropped.
So, and it's a very short one, but let's see what it is.
Sue is pregnant, obviously, with Franklin Richards. Now, I doubt she'll be showing throughout the film.
Yes, we are.
I know, because I've bought the comics, read the comics, and sold the comics at the comic shop I own.
You're so full of shit.
It's beautiful. Whoever they are, I love you, Hippoclip. I want you to have my babies.
All right, yeah, I gotta step away for just a moment, but I will be back shortly, so you guys can go on. I'll try to listen.
All right, we'll start talking about Daredevil, because I'm sure you'll have thoughts to add in once we get back. So
yeah, I do. All right. Well, I've already talked about Daredevil too, so y'all feel free.
All right.
So we're talking about the Quisling of the week. Gavin Newsom. Right. He is not alone in being the Quisling of the week.
There will be many, but he is. So this week he gave a statement about how Democrats shouldn't pay any attention to this immigration stuff. Meanwhile, Senator Van Hollen, who went to Venezuela and was like, "No, I'm not leaving until I can at least talk to this guy and make sure he is okay," was invited on all of the Sunday shows, including Fox News.
Yeah.
He is the most visible Democrat in the country right now, and he is someone most people hadn't heard of a month ago. So no, Gavin Newsom, maybe we shouldn't ignore this immigration stuff, you piece of shit.
Yeah. And the weird part to me is, like, Gavin Newsom isn't the only Democrat who said that this week.
No, he is not.
He's just the most famous one. But the weird thing to me is that all of the Democrats who are saying this are the same ones who say we need to be appealing to Trump voters.
Right.
to try and shave some of them off. And if you look at the town halls that have been happened where this issue specifically was brought up in front of Republican congressmen by their own voters, their own voters are pissed that Trump is defying the Supreme Court and rounding up people without due process. Republicans are pissed about this. And in the face of that, quislings like Gavin Newsom say, oh, it's all a distraction. We shouldn't be playing into Trump's hands.
No.
And thereby playing directly into Trump's hands.
Right. No, we should be, and we should drag it in front of their people and go, look what he is doing. And because people, when they're shown it, when they're confronted with it, they have to do one of two things. They have to ignore reality, get angry, and enter denial and engage in cognitive dissonance, or realize they've been had and get fucking angry like the rest of us at these assholes who just, are fascists.
Yep.
And I'm glad to see some of them are coming around, and I wish Democrats like fucking Newsom would realize, no, this is how you get those people. Show them what Republicans are. Don't promise to be Republican light.
Yeah. And I'm stuck with him as my governor, unfortunately. He has, I mean, in the state, he's done some good things.
Sure.
And if I had to vote in an election where my choices were Gavin Newsom or J.D. Vance, I would pick Gavin Newsom.
Right.
But I shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to, no.
Damn it.
Meanwhile, I'm over here. Do you know what happened this week in Wisconsin? We're talking about Wisconsin for a minute. We're talking about Quisling of the Week. I want to talk about some good shit. I got some good shit.
Okay.
So a few years ago, Tony Evers, our governor, this Chad. So Wisconsin has a line item veto where the governor can remove sentences from bills when they veto instead of vetoing all or nothing. And it's been controversial in Wisconsin forever, and both parties have used it throughout our history as a state. The legislature, which has been Republican controlled for the last 15 years, sent him a budget a couple years ago that was like minimal school increases for a very short amount of time. And using the line item veto, he made it 400 years. And the Supreme Court of Wisconsin upheld that.
I did see that this week, yeah.
So we have the fucking Quisling of the Week, fucking Gavin Newsom, who's got a Democrat Senate, Democrat legislature. He could do whatever progressive thing he wanted. And this is all wishy-washy. And here we have the Chad Governor Evers, who's like, no, fuck you. We're giving schools funding for 4 centuries.
Whoa.
Yeah. And Gavin Newsom ran for the governorship of California on instituting universal health care in the state. And then the nanosecond he was inaugurated, he said, oh, I never said that.
Drop that like a bad habit.
Yeah.
I think y'all just don't like his hair, or you're jealous of his hair.
My hair's better than his. Don't even.
His hair is a little outdated. If this were the 90s, he would have bomb hair. His hair would slap in the 90s, but he looks too much like Patrick Bateman now.
Oh, a little bit, yeah. I didn't even.
So I used to like him because the only thing I knew of him was that he would go on to Bill Maher, and be on those panels back in the day. And in hindsight, anybody that would go on Bill Maher like regularly, what a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, there are certain issues on which Gavin Newsom is really good.
Yeah,
like he's pretty good on queer rights in general. He's pretty good on basically all the social issues, but anything that puts him in conflict with the capitalists who run everything.
Right, but who knows if he actually even believes any of that shit, the social issues, because he knows he's in a state where he essentially has to if he wants to stay in office.
Right. But he's also very good at arguing for them. And that's an important skill to have. So I don't know what he actually believes, but he also was once married to Mrs. Donald Trump Jr., Rita Repulsa.
Yeah.
What's her name? Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Yeah.
So his judgment is obviously clouded.
The best is that when we knew that Bill Maher was sleeping with what's her name back in the early 2000s, like maybe Bill Maher isn't like a great source of political wisdom.
Ann Coulter.
Ann Coulter, thank you.
Yeah.
Tip of my tongue.
That was never confirmed, but it was pretty much like an open secret that they were banging at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he really enjoyed her curves. It's like fucking Skeletor, I imagine.
It's handles, right? You have lots of grips. It's like mountain climbing, I think.
I mean, Kevin Smith is cool. That's true.
When was that? That had to have been a long time ago.
Yeah, when was this?
If he wasn't talking about having a heart attack and becoming a vegan, then it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because that's all he talks about now.
Really?
Yeah, because Kevin Smith is definitely aware of current events now.
No, he if you watched it was goddamn Clerks 3, was that it?
I have not watched that.
Bob reboot. There's definitely a lot of stuff indicating that he's hip with the current fucking day social issues.
Yeah, and Bill Maher has always been this way.
Yeah, he's always.
He likes to say, "Oh, I didn't change. The left changed." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the problem, dude.
That's
you didn't. You stopped learning. That's not a good look."
No.
The thing that remember what the thing that he lost his show on ABC for originally?
I don't remember what it was.
It seems like such a cold take now. I mean, it's just a weird thing to die on anyway. But like he said that on his show, Politically Incorrect, back in the day, he said somebody called the 9/11 terrorists cowards, and he said, "Oh, they're not cowards. You can't be a coward and commit to doing something like that." And that was it. There's so much outrage over him saying that they canceled his show, and HBO scooped him up.
God damn.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, okay, you're just kind of talking about subjective dumb shit right now, but I mean, yeah, I see your point. You're not. I mean, it's contextual, right? Like,
yeah,
in the height of fucking jingoist rah patriotism back then, I can understand. There's a lot of. I mean, look what happened to the Dixie Chicks. They got canceled.
Yeah.
Yep.
Currently,
and to be fair to Bill Maher, his full statement was something to the effect of, "You can say a lot of terrible things about the 9/11 hijackers that would all be true, but cowards don't do these kinds of things. They were many things, but cowards was not one of them."
It's adjacent to like Hitler like dogs a little bit. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wait, Hitler like dogs? Oh.
Well, you can say a lot of things about Hitler, but the one thing Hitler did do is kill Hitler.
Yeah. Single greatest act of anti-fascism in World War II. Yeah.
Yep.
Based Hitler.
Clip it.
There's the clip. I'm on camera for that too. Thanks, Dane. Really appreciate it.
You know what? At this point, I welcome a nice, even semi-negative virality of a clip from the show. I'll take it.
Aw. Yeah, we don't go viral like the Shill Clips folks. We're the problem is we're not like the right kind of culture war show for your. At this point,
I take it as a compliment in a weird way that we don't, get more popular because our content is actually providing context and trying to inform and understand things, which is just not what social media does.
No.
Yeah. We need to maybe we should start clout chasing the Midas Touch network and since they are the number one.
That's true.
I mean, this is true, but I'm like, you know what? That's true.
What? Hitler stole from us seeing the trial?
Trial of Hitler. You know what? I'm happy.
You still got to see the officers and stuff, so whatever. I'll take it.
Yeah. Plus, you know what?
Oh, okay. I understand it now. He stole from us the opportunity to see him on trial. Okay.
I think a lot more people would have got off if Hitler was still alive. I think a lot more Nazis got what they had coming because he punched his own ticket.
Yeah. If he'd survived, they would have hung everything on him.
Yeah.
And all of his underlings would have turned on him and said he was the mastermind, which he was, but
not.
Yeah.
They still
single-handedly.
I mean, really, because he offed himself, in the catharsis didn't get to happen. We might not have gotten movies like Sisu or Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the trials where they hung a whole bunch of fucking Nazis.
Yeah, the actual trial where they did that. Yeah.
Where it was, are you a scientist with usable skills for our military-industrial complex? Nope. Gallows for you, I guess.
I wonder if there was like one guy that was like, "Yeah, I'm a really smart scientist guy," and like was trying to do some science stuff. And I don't know.
I want a movie about that guy.
Happening. I'm sorry.
I want a movie about that guy.
That's what I was thinking. That'd be fucking funny.
Here's something that would actually make a really funny comedy, I think, in the right hands. Adolf Hitler had a nephew named William who emigrated to the United States and served in the U.S. military in World War II. So somebody could make a movie or a comic book or something called The Adventures of Billy Hitler. And
that's like some Coen Brothers shit.
Nobody would think it was real, and they'd be offended by it, and then they could look it up and go, "Oh my god, it's true."
The movie starts based on a true story and has like his draft card picture for when they first enlist you.
Yeah.
Well, there is a movie that exists called Guess Who's Back.
Oh no.
And yeah, you already know who it's about because of the conversation we're having. It is literally just about Hitler coming back to life or whatever, like, current day. Of course, I think it was in like the 2000s or something. I think it's actually, was it a German film? I don't know, something not American. But yeah, I watched the scene from it one time. It was pretty funny because he goes around, so he wants to find out what's going on with the far right nowadays. So he goes to like this local, basically just a Aryan Brotherhood meeting or whatever, where it's just like the fucking schlubby fat guys, and they're just kind of sitting around having coffee and they're not doing anything. And he kind of goes off on them. It's pretty funny. Oh man, the Ballad of Billy Hitler. Jesus Christ. No,
it writes itself.
It does. It really does.
God.
And he served in combat, not just like as a
logistics
staff
guy.
position. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well go the Inglourious Bastards route of like, let's do, kind of a fictional history kind of thing where he actually has to, the final act, he meets Adolf Hitler, right?
Yeah. He did meet him. They did meet. And like before the war, Hitler got him a position in the Austrian government or something like that. Like William Hitler was able to use his connections to the Fuhrer to get work in Europe. And then things started going south. So,
and then he bounced.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's your first act right there, right? And then the second act is
he changed
the montage of his military training and having to like get accepted by the U.S. Navy men because they're like, "Your name's Hitler," and he gets beat up a lot and stuff. And then the third act,
where the other guys are like, "Oh, your name's Hitler." Yeah, who's asking?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
And then the third act, he gets the super soldier serum and he goes to fight Hitler, like Mecha Hitler or something like that.
Oh my god!
You're about to give it to scrawny Steve Rogers, and the guy comes in like, "Sir, got the nephew of Adolf Hitler here. Well, get out of here, Rogers. We're going with this Billy Hitler." All right, silliness here.
Apparently he was wounded in the war and got a Purple Heart.
Yeah,
wow.
He was in the Navy, drafted to the Navy as a pharmacist's mate on a ship. Yeah, hospital corpsman. So yeah, that's serving right off the not on the front, but like right off the front.
Wow.
Shut the fuck up.
It's crazy.
Changed his last name after the war to Stuart Houston.
Smart. Probably a good idea. Yeah.
Probably a really good idea if you are.
As did everyone else with the name Hitler.
Hitler, yeah, that's a whole, yeah. And they all got rid of that mustache too. Poor Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
That's okay. Ben Shapiro's bringing it back.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Irony.
Imagine so all the comparisons between Nazi Germany and the Netanyahu Israeli government aside, imagine in that climate, you as a American spokesperson for right-wing Zionism are growing that fucking mustache. This is like the simulation is broken, right?
Self-awareness is never
Matrix
been
is glitching.
Strong suit.
The thing is, Ben Shapiro's not growing that mustache. It's just his natural hair, facial hair coloring is doing that. He's growing. He has a full mustache and beard, but it's weird that he hasn't noticed it about himself.
No one has said, bro, you got to fix that. Like, bro, let me show you what you look like. Have you seen yourself on camera? You're putting on the Reich. Speaking of putting on the Reich, Billy Fisk.
Good old Billy Fisk. One time when he was a kid, he was put in the unfortunate position of committing violence against his own father. And he decided, hey, that's pretty cool shit. I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah. That seems to be, he's really committed to that bit.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for Daredevil.
Yeah, right? Spoiler alert for the end of season 1 of Daredevil.
Right off the bat, I've done more thinking about it since Friday or whatever. I know what was it, Wednesday? When did I talk about this before? Wednesday, I guess.
Probably Wednesday.
Done more thinking about the whole season, and it is very uneven.
Yeah, I would say so.
I will at the same time, considering what we now has been confirmed apparently by Vincent D'Onofrio, the original idea was not just idea, but that they had executed filming several episodes of the season before they decided to scrap that and start almost completely from scratch. It's kind of impressive that it is as good as it is.
Yeah, like this is effectively 2 shows stitched together,
and it's coherent. Like it's
coherent,
uneven, but it tells a coherent narrative.
Yeah,
true. It's just that there's a lot of weird kind of like asides in the middle of the narrative that is really the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then certain things don't happen whenever you think they should, kind of thing. But otherwise, it's kind of impressive.
I would think compared to the other show we know had substantial rewrites in Falcon and Winter Soldier, this certainly feels more coherent than that, though they both still feel a little uneven.
So apparently, according to Vincent D'Onofrio, this is I didn't know this. I thought that it was just going to be more of a legal procedural, and that's what they scrapped.
Sure.
And turned it into this. Maybe that was also it, but it was going to be completely disconnected from the Netflix show. There was not going to be any leftover anything.
That's what. It was supposed to be a complete reboot.
So that explains why Karen is literally only in like the first and last episode, basically, and and Foggy. So that there was going to be no connection to it. It was going to be like new cast and everything, which is just, I think that would have been rejected outright. And I think Kevin Feige is the one that saw that and was like, yeah, they're going to reject this. We got to start this show.
Right. And it's still not clear that it's in the same continuity as the Netflix shows. There's enough similarity that if you file the serial numbers off, there are
references to things that happen, like with why Poindexter is in jail and the like killing that FBI agent and like Vanessa's involvement in that story arc.
But they're all vague enough that it doesn't have to be the original show. It could have just been a different timeline.
It would be different. I mean, that's enough for me to go, okay, this is the same thing.
I think they want that like enough for people to assume it's the same thing with the wiggle room that if things are different or get retconned that no one is going to be too upset, because like we don't know, like for instance, when does the Netflix shows take place temporally in the MCU? Because the Netflix shows were originally billed as being MCU adjacent or related, but then like they don't fit into the timeline anywhere.
Yeah, and the shows make like vague references to the event, or
right.
Yeah, there would be like a newspaper in the background that had like one of the Chitauri, things flying through in a photo and whatever.
I think my favorite is one of them has a like the Church of Thor is my favorite like reference to the like things going on in the MCU. Is there's like this like Church of Thor little hole in the wall place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I feel like they kind of have to, like, if they really want us to consider this cohesive, they have to do something that connects to the larger MCU in the next season, because what this sets up is big. It's not just something that you know, with to a certain extent with the previous Netflix stuff, you can kind of just imagine like, okay, this is street level, kind of smaller crime stuff that's happening that we just don't, you know, when the Avengers are involved, it's some huge global event. And so I can understand maybe Daredevil's dealing with this shit off, you know, down the side. Nobody sees that. It's not really relevant right now when Thanos is doing whatever he's doing.
Right.
But when you have the mayor being the, you know, the kingpin, and he fucking takes over the city of New York, which is, you know, where 99% of these heroes live, you got to address it. Something's got to happen.
You have to work that in somehow. I don't know how they're going to do it. I imagine the easy thing to do is to find like a low to mid power hero that is New York adjacent that isn't Spider-Man, because the rights aren't going to fly on that.
See, that's the right thing to do. That's the thing to do.
That is the thing to do.
Also the thing they won't do because they can't do.
They can't do it.
But that is
capitalism.
The thing to do.
I was reading that D'Onofrio said the film rights to Kingpin are different than the TV and streaming rights. So Marvel can't put him in a movie.
Right.
They must be Spider-Man related then, instead of
they probably are.
And that would make sense that they would, because really he's just as much one or the other, both of those guys, nemesis in a way. I mean, yeah, he's got much more personal stuff with Daredevil in the comics, but he's maybe even more often been a villain for Spider-Man.
Like most of my familiarity with the Kingpin has been through Spider-Man.
Yeah. So yeah, it makes sense that they would have made those rights, you know, cut the deals that way, where there's like,
but it's weird because they put Jennifer Garner's Elektra in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
And Kingpin, the only movie that the Kingpin character's been in was
the Fox
the Daredevil movie that she was in.
Yeah, that was Fox.
So he could just be mistaken as well.
That's true too. He's not a lawyer.
And I just want to point out how fucking bizarre it is to hear him talk in his normal voice.
Right?
It's like he does not sound like Wilson Fisk at all.
He does not. No, which I mean, he's a really good actor, and I think this goes to show it. I think that I guess if I was to like spitball a hero they could pick from an MCU thing that would feel almost appropriate and not be Spider-Man, would be someone like Moon Knight.
Moon Knight would work.
Like I think Bucky is probably a little too high profile, but would also work because he's a New York kid.
And he's running for Congress.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry,
so,
that's a spoiler. I'm sorry. If you haven't
it's
seen
okay. I have not seen that movie
new
yet.
Captain America movie.
I haven't seen it, but I have seen that information. So
okay.
So like someone like that. I also think you could bring in Miss Marvel, but I think that's a tough sell.
It would be a weird one. You know, it's kind of, it seemed random that they chose like her dad to be the one to, you know, like, okay, that's a weird.
I think that gives them the ability to put Matt into a Miss Marvel story, because I think that he's got the range with that character.
Sure. He's already in She-Hulk.
Right, exactly. I think
they did set that up in the show, the whole episode with her father.
Right.
At the end, her father invited him over for dinner.
Right.
So like, like, you know, maybe after the whole Shadowland or whatever they're doing next season is over, then you know, he can just take a trip to Jersey City and
right, like, but yeah, I think you can do Daredevil and Miss Marvel much easier than you can do Miss Marvel and Daredevil.
Yeah, true.
Boy, who else? I mean, it's a shame we don't have mutants, because there's a bunch of like New York adjacent mutants that would be fantastic to include.
And apparently, we don't even have Warlocks because they chose to not make Muse one.
Yeah, they chose not to make Muse one, which is, or an Inhuman.
Just bring in any of the West Coast Avengers. Come on.
Well, I mean, currently the West Coast Avengers, Iron Man, War Machine, who else? I don't know. There's like Jerry Duggan's writing West Coast Avengers, a new series now, and it's actually they've leveled up a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see who. If I wanted an MCU mainstay. Hawkeye, I mean, because we've seen Hawkeye and the Kingpin go at it before already in the MCU. I think the Hawkeye show was pretty good, so more of that.
Which Hawkeye, though?
Yes.
Yep.
Both of them. The answer is yes.
Okay.
especially because he has her stepfather in captivity. Because Kate's stepfather is.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. Holy shit! Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is a, wow.
And I think that brings that would bring in your Hawkeyes.
All of this could be done next season.
Yeah. And you need them for one episode, right? Like it could be the episode of, hey, I need to spring my stepfather, right? Like,
yeah. Daredevil is raising an army, so
right.
I guess I'm curious why Frank didn't let anybody out on his way out the door. Maybe he just didn't feel the need to.
I think because Frank is the sort of person who is going to exfiltrate himself, get healthy, and then engage in the murder clowning.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
His solution to that problem is it'll be much easier to free all of these people when all of the Nazis are dead.
Yeah. Whenever I have my my superpower, guns.
Gun. I cast gun. Here's my main spell, Alakazam.
He had a hatchet this time too.
Oh, the hatchet was so cool. He fucking steals that woman's hatchet and just goes fucking ham on her.
You know what? I didn't realize until I was watching back the previously on thing. It didn't hit me. It's I don't know how I missed it. Whenever he shows up in episode 4 or whatever, and like first thing you see is him about to hit Matt with a hatchet, and then he instead buries the hatchet into the wall.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's so fucking obvious. That's pretty good though.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
They've buried the hatchet.
I have to go back because I never watched the Punisher Netflix show. It just came out at a time when I didn't have Netflix or something.
Yeah, neither did I.
It's pretty good. It basically like it spends a lot of time distinguishing that he is very fucked up and like you basically creating a situation where, okay, in this specific context, it makes sense that he's doing what he's doing.
Right.
Like they try not to make it a show where he's just going around murdering fucking criminals left and right.
Right.
Like the second season, I think, or maybe the second season, I believe, is just some girl he's protecting kind of thing. So it's like, okay, yeah,
sure. Like I know he has a thing with like clearly him and Karen have a thing, and I don't like that's not in Daredevil.
Yeah. Well, no, it is in Daredevil. It's just like you can see that she's got sympathy for him whenever he first shows up and stuff. So,
but this is like they have some sort of like interest in each other, like not a romantic connection, but there's some like smoldering there that was hinted at in this show.
She, to me, it seems it's more than just a romantic thing. From what I can tell, it seems more like she's just someone that he sees as good and trustworthy and trusts what he's doing, but that gives him almost like a lifeline to pull himself out of the Punisher mode a little bit. And like that's what it kind of showed in the show too, is that he's like, once they left, he was like, be safe or whatever. He actually cares about these people. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. He hasn't let himself care about anybody in a long time.
I do love his interactions with Matt.
Yeah.
I love how they call each other out on their bullshit. And they're so sassy with each other, but they absolutely have each other's back.
Yeah, it's so fucking like.
It is weird to me though that Daredevil just doesn't. He's against killing.
Yeah,
and he just lets Frank get away with it. At some point that would have to come to, maybe not in that moment, but at some point that there would have to be a conflict there. They've already had that conflict in the first.
Having read a shitload of Daredevil lately, there's something I'm realizing about him, that he is not at all like Spider-Man. He's not at all like Batman. He's really his own thing. And the fact that he, wears a devil costume kind of indicates, despite being a Catholic, is the inherent contradiction of this character. Yeah. He is, I think that to some degree, probably you can just assume that he's okay with the people that Frank kills. He doesn't think it's right. But I mean, he's even admitted before in the comics that like, he's scared that if he starts killing, he's never going to stop killing.
Right.
And it's like, that's understandable. And at that point, then where's the line?
Yeah, I think that's the difference between Daredevil and Spider-Man. Spider-Man will stop the Punisher from killing people while trying to do everything else. And Daredevil will let Punisher kill people and then scold him afterwards.
Or stop him from killing somebody and then hit the guy that he stopped him from killing with a fucking metal rod that probably killed him.
That probably killed him or gave him permanent brain damage.
Yeah.
Like
definitely would have fucking killed him.
There is a lot of like Well, you didn't shoot the guy, but you did push him out a window. So I don't know.
That's that fuzzy physics and anatomy working in superhero media. Because like every fight that Matt had in this, especially against the cops at the beginning, that would have fucking killed those guys.
Those guys would be dead.
Did at the end of the episode? What was it? Second episode? Where he fought this cop? I thought that he killed the cop.
Yeah,
because the way he landed on his fucking face with his like neck.
Yeah,
I thought his neck was busted. Yeah.
In real life, that would have been that guy would be dead.
Yeah,
I literally assumed that the next episode was going to start with him, dealing with having murdered a cop, and it didn't. And I'm like, oh, that guy's alive. Holy shit! Like,
I think it's interesting that Fisk's solution to the problem of police corruption was just to make them a gang. Was just to fully go like, well, they act like a gang. They're in my way. I'm just going to make them another gang under my purview. And I'm going to kill any cop who doesn't want to be part of my gang.
Yeah.
Because early on we talked about like how he was going to resolve his issues with police corruption. And his issue was to corrupt them harder.
Yeah, if you make them corrupt for you, specifically.
For you, yes.
And then that's cool.
I mean, that's
and how
what's happening
easy
in
it
real
was
life
to do.
right now. So.
Right, yeah, it is. And look how easy it was to do. And that's how easy it is to happen in real life. Sadly.
So what we talked about on the Shillcast the other day is an interesting thing that I'm sure that chuds are really pissed off about some of the, and they're probably even accusing it of, oh, they're using Trump to blah blah, but there's no obvious way that they're doing it. Like it's pretty brilliant how they just made Wilson Fisk do the things Wilson Fisk would do.
Right.
And then if chuds see Trump in it, then okay, it's not like they're making him say Trump things. He's not saying, acting anything like Trump in his mannerisms, his words, nothing.
He's acting like Wilson Fisk, and it turns
he's not
out
the president. He's the mayor. What are you talking about? What are you seeing there that could possibly be the same? I mean, other than that, just the crimes,
the fascism.
This was written and filmed months before the election.
Yeah,
almost certainly. I think Nerdrotic has a video about this.
Yeah, I saw it earlier. I haven't watched it yet.
I don't watch his shit anymore either. But based on the thumbnail, I'm pretty sure it's about this.
Yeah. And yes, obviously.
Get out
of here, Buck. What the fuck are you, Wesley? All the way.
His name is Buck Cashman. What a fucking comic book villain name.
It's not like Fisk is writing his tweets. Yeah. Oh god, I want to see somebody start a fucking Twitter account.
No, he's got a guy who writes the unhinged tweets who's like his fucking toady
over him while he's writing them, and if he fucking misspells something, he crushes his head. Let's say
that's a really specific.
Yeah,
it is. It's a very specific thing, way to kill a person, and Fisk shows that with Commissioner Gallo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jaden says in chat, this is a good point, that Fisk is more like Rudy Giuliani in comparison.
Oh, that's
which is very much true. And he's also like Fiorello LaGuardia, who they called out by name in the show. That like that's the mayor that Fisk
wants to be
admires.
Like.
Yeah,
and wants to be like.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit.
So we don't have to do it again, but I did. We looked at fucking the bloody disgusting article that broke down like how the whole head crushing thing came together, or came apart, and it's pretty interesting. Like I remember, so I guess Ryan had watched it before I did, and he said, "Oh, there was one scene that like made him literally almost made him sick." And I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck are they doing that made him sick?" Almost made him sick, and then I got to it. I was like, "Oh god, that's it.
That's the guy." Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that comment and I was waiting, so I was expecting something to happen, and so it didn't shock me as much. But I will say, top-notch use of practical effects and excellent gore effects.
Oh yeah.
Reading about how they did it, just to real quick, they decided that there's been head crushes in movies and stuff before, and it's like often they'll go a route where it's like just kind of it all just kind of explodes in their hands kind of thing. And it's like, that's not really realistic though. Like if he puts his hand here on one side of his head and his other hand down lower on his head, what's going to happen? He's going to cave in one side of his head and break his jaw off.
Right.
And that's what happened.
It's exactly what happened. And it was gloriously gory.
It was upsetting.
It was very upsetting. Yeah. I was like,
the only nitpick I have is that that injury would not have been instantly fatal, so we should have seen his body squirming and twitching for a little while.
Thanks,
But
Bob.
I think that would be too far even for Disney.
Yeah, and Disney has like, like, where the fuck is this fucking Disney been the whole time?
Yeah.
Where hey guys, where have you been? More of this.
You know, I mean, and thing is, like, if that had not served some narrative purpose, I would not have been down with it. I would have thought, like, that's fucking stupid. Why did you do that? Just to show your badass or something, Disney? Like, what's going on? But it actually is a perfect moment. A perfect way to say, no, he's stepping out of pretending to be the fucking mayor now, and Mayor Fisk. And literally the description of the show says he stops being, Mayor Fisk becomes Mayor Kingpin, essentially. So, yeah, that's what that moment represents is, we're not fucking around anymore. Like, I'm not going to try and play by your rules. We're doing it my way now.
So one thing I want to talk about,
like the people in the room with him were like, "What the fuck?" So I think we'll see some of them break ranks in season 2.
Probably. I think Sheila's gonna waffle a whole bunch. She seems the one set to be the most waffly. One thing I want to talk about, we sort of touched on it earlier, is that like with all the extrajudicial killings and like the cops' complete suspension of the law, and how you handle due process, like it feels like this was filmed last week in some ways.
Right. Yeah, that just means it was prophetic.
Well, I also think that
that the problems that we're seeing literally come to, like, not literally, but coming to a head now and being so obvious and out in the open, these things have been bubbling up for a long time.
And like especially when it comes to like corruption in New York cops and over policing by the New York PD is a systemic issue that's existed for decades. And so like the reason this feels like it happened yesterday is because it's not only happened yesterday, but every day of most of our lives.
Yeah. These are the days of our lives. You know what? What's his name? What's Gandalf's son?
Daniel.
Yeah,
I bet he's going to kill her, or she's going to kill him. One of the two. They're going to fight.
Well, Sheila wasn't in the room when he crushed that guy's head, though, was she?
I think she was.
She wasn't in the room, but she knew that he was going to be
die.
killed.
Yeah.
She just didn't see that moment. Yeah. Stopping Fisk. Christ. Yeah, I mean, like the he puts a fucking mask on that dude. That's the new version of like playing a gun on him or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is. And like the cops are fucking famous for planting drugs and planting guns. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but if I recall when they announced this series, they said that the first season was going to be like 18 episodes or something.
It was supposed to be 18 episodes in total, and now it has been split into 2 9-episode seasons because they were like, well, we've got to restart.
Okay. So if they only filmed like 4-ish episodes of the original idea, that means next season is going to all be the new vision.
Yeah.
It'll probably be more coherent.
The only option they have is to, well, maybe not the only, but I mean, like, it seems like they're going to have to, hold on one second. It seems like they're going to have to resolve the whole, fist sting thing immediately if they do have any other episodes that are just kind of like asides, because you're not just going to have, like, for instance, the bank episode happening in the middle of all that, right? Like, where it's just like he's going to the bank today.
I think when you're talking about like this idea that like Matt is going to build an army and declare war on Fisk, I think you can have those more episodic episodes, because building an army, like, it's like a common thing in stories, and you see it a lot in video games of like, well, you want to recruit this person to help you, and so this week we are going to be solving this person's particular problem so that he'll help us do this thing that will fuck up Fisk.
Well, I mean, but then you've got the whole martial law thing, so that has to be present in every episode, or it's going to feel kind of lame,
Sure, and I think it will, but I think you can do that with a lot of visual storytelling. You don't need to tell us every episode that martial law is going on. You can do what they did: have cops around and have people sort of keeping their distance from the cops.
The BB Urich, the freaking
the BB report,
the street stuff.
if I don't know if they want to do a season 3 or not, but if they do, I think they really need to, after this next season, move away from Matt versus Fisk being the central conflict all the time.
This is
going to have diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Really they can't do it again. I fully believe that this is they need to
is
go all out with this and then end it. Like whatever that looks like, that we're confident it's not going to be. Because I mean, there's really, once again, there's so much Daredevil that has nothing to do with Fisk. Granted, he is in the background of a lot of it, but yeah.
The one thing I don't want is the hand.
Yep, I think
I don't want them.
Unless you have a good representation, that's what you have to have. This hand is a non-entity. It's not something that is interesting or compelling as character-wise or whatever itself. But if you have a certain representative, like for example, if they did the fucking Punisher becomes the leader of the hand thing, that might be real.
Oh boy, that might work.
Then you got Frank versus Matt again, different context. But I definitely think they need to introduce Blind Spot. I read an article from, I think it was Collider, that they said that, and that's exactly what I've been saying. That this is a perfect opportunity to introduce Blind Spot. It also creates a new dynamic for Daredevil to have. That's like a relationship that he has as Daredevil instead of just as Matt. And he's a teacher in that context, as well as he's, and then he needs an army. So there you go. Blind Spot, do the shit. He doesn't need any, he's not a mutant. He literally just made his own invisibility suit.
That's true.
So
what other Daredevil villains? Like, what is his rogues gallery outside of the hand? Stiltman. Oh yes, let's do Stiltman.
Gladiator. That Gladiator's actually, I think, he was already in it though. Because he's the guy that made his suit.
Oh, okay.
Right? That was Milton or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the comics, Gladiator, I forget exactly how they did it in the show, but in the comics, Gladiator, he's actually just a sad case because he's got kind of a mental health issue that he thinks he sometimes goes into this other personality that he thinks he is a literal gladiator that's got to rip people apart and stuff like that. But otherwise, he's a very harmless guy. The I am not Daredevil shirt.
It would be cool for season 3 to have a exposed Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say that too. Like if Kingpin doesn't blow up Matt Murdock's life in season 2, then
that's a problem. Because he doesn't have that. He does have that nuclear.
Well, I think he has blown up his house.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, true. That's a start. But I mean,
his identity and everything. Yeah,
it's going to continue to strain credulity if these two don't expose one another, because that would be the most ruthless thing to do to undermine Matt Murdock's credibility in the current moment. Is just expose him as Daredevil.
Yeah.
The funniest thing that I saw, by the way, is on something in Reddit. I don't remember where it was, but somebody was like, "Oh, I think it was in the Mauler subreddit," where and some fucking Mauler fan post was like, "This Daredevil show's garbage," and blah blah blah, and then somebody was listing off all the problems with the show, and of course, every single one of them is some very, very subjective thing that if you include some bit of information that most viewers aren't going to include or think about, then this thing doesn't make any sense, and even still, it's pretty stupid. That kind of list of problems in the show.
Right.
Maybe it had one or two that it's I kind of see that. But then one of them was the fact that they just kind of don't even really explain, oh, he's the mayor now, even though he was in trouble for all this stuff. And they say, oh, he's not in trouble anymore or whatever. And it's yeah, that doesn't happen at all, right?
That's
where somebody,
not realistic at all.
Is facing all these very serious criminal charges, and then suddenly they're in a position of power. What?
How did that happen?
But somebody actually did reply to them saying, dude, Donald Trump is president.
Right. Okay, sorry, I just had a flashback to other stuff. A villain they could use that if they wanted to sort of add a supernatural element without doing the hand is you could use the Hood and his gang.
The Hood is he's definitely not unutilized character in the MCU that would be fun.
Underutilized, yeah.
Isn't the Hood going to be the villain in Ironheart?
Yes,
or am I thinking of a different character?
Is he?
Because I remember that's actually a really smart thing to do for her movie or show or whatever it is. Because she's technological thing. Instead of having her go up against somebody else in armor, have her go up against
a magic guy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's Well, oh shit! I guess that ruins my whole plan. Then that'd be hard to do him twice. I guess.
Well, it doesn't. They don't have to necessarily bring in a specifically Daredevil.
No,
villain.
That's the thing is he's not a Daredevil villain. Like he's a New York criminal villain who isn't really a Daredevil villain.
He's definitely encountered Daredevil, but he's kind of just a shithead whoever's around to deal with him deals with him.
Yeah. I mean, they could get more mileage out of Bullseye too. I think.
Oh
they
yeah,
could get at least one more season's worth of that out of him.
I like the idea of Bullseye as like not this hitter for hire, but just this like
he's a loose cannon. He's just
a loose cannon who's just shitting in everyone's teacup.
Yeah. But if they want to keep it going beyond 2 seasons, they need to bring in a villain other than Fisk to be the main villain.
Yeah. I mean, so there's excuse me. I know it's hard to think of anybody other than Fisk. There are definitely some, but like a lot of them, that's the thing, is some of the villains that he's faced were because Fisk hired them.
Right.
Other than that, one of his biggest ones, most substantial ones was Mysterio, but that was Kevin Smith's run, and Mysterio is, Mysterio, he's already been dealt with. And that was also Mysterio hired Bullseye to, and that's when Karen, spoiler alert,
right?
Karen Page died.
It gets got in the
which
comic.
was really, it was honestly merciful after what they had done to that character over the years.
They had not treated him for a while.
I was fucking reminded of how just, I don't know, man. It's like, she's a character that, this type of character that's like someone who has been the love interest of a known superhero, but doesn't ever actually become some kind of hero in her own right or whatever. I think this era is over in comics. I don't think they really write women like this anymore, but they definitely did. Where first, I think she moved away. She became, I think, a disc jockey, a DJ or something. Then she got addicted to heroin, I think, and then she got. Then she became a porn star. Then she got AIDS.
Like you do.
Yeah, and that's where she was at whenever she showed up on Matt's doorstep in Kevin Smith's run. And then eventually Bullseye killed her.
Right.
Well, he was trying to kill her. He threw Matt's thing back at him, his baton, and she jumped in the way and stopped it from hitting. So, yeah. So I mean, honestly, Kevin Smith did kind of redeem her a little bit. She did a good heroic thing at the end.
She did a heroic thing before getting her ticket punched.
Yep.
So who is D-Man, and who was he in the new Cap movie, Sean? I don't know who D-Man is. I'm not that deep into the Marvel.
What? D-Man is, I'll bring up a thing on Demon. Okay. It's not it's D-Man. But yeah, 10 fingers. That'd be a weird one though, man, because he literally has like 10 fingers on each hand. It's just kind of awkward looking. Like it works in comics, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in like that just don't translate well. And
Demolition Man is what D-Man stands for.
Okay. I don't recall a character, so I don't know Marvel lore.
Wolverine looking costume. Oh my God.
Daredevil.
So if there was a character with his name in the Cap movie, I don't know who that was.
Also known as D-Man, is a fictional superhero appearing in American comics, Marvel, blah, blah, blah. Limited appearances. Will Friedle voices the character in the Disney Plus special Lego Marvel Avengers Mission Demolition, while William McCullough portrays the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Captain America: Brave New World. Whoa.
Huh.
Wait, so who does?
William McCullough
portrays the character in. Okay, I have no idea what character that was.
He was one of the Navy SEALs in the movie.
Yeah, I'm guessing he was not.
Okay.
Right? Nobody's wearing this in the movie, right?
No.
No one's wearing that in the movie. Okay, so if it's who I think it is, I'm going to shut my mouth because of spoilers.
Oh, okay.
So he first appeared in The Thing number 28 in 85, but he didn't appear as Demolition Man until Captain America 328, 2 years later.
Uh-huh.
So he was Captain America's newest partner at the time. All of Cap's past partners, Bucky, Rick Jones, the Falcon, and Nomad, have been less powerful than he, so he was naturally the dominant figure in the partnership. This new guy can lift 10 tons, so he's no slouch in the power department, and he's half a head taller than Captain America, so there's a different kind of relationship with D-Man, as he's called. Okay. Weird.
Very weird. Huh.
Yeah, he gets some he gets powers from the power broker.
Oh, well, that fits
That'll
into
work.
things. Yeah, honestly, I'm waiting for Captain America to come to Disney Plus. I just like.
Yeah, that's why I was not saying spoilers, because not because of the general principle, but just because I know the two of you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
so.
I appreciate it.
Well, now this question just popped in mind. Did they deal with who the power broker actually was? Ended up being? Do they deal with that in the movie at all? Probably not, right?
No, it's not never mentioned.
That did it dropped out like a bad habit.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I didn't really.
That's something that's not in the movie. I'm not going to say what's in the movie.
Right? Yeah, no, I understand.
It's kind of weird that she turned out to be that, right? Like I didn't see the justification for it.
It was one of those things where they cast an actor and they have her under contract for multiple movies and like, well, we need you to do something. Be a bad guy, not surprise.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work. It was
probably
my least.
It was the weirdest choice in that show, I thought.
Yeah. It is my least favorite part of that show. It just does not. Yeah. It comes out of nowhere. It doesn't really work.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to get going and get the kids ready for bed and school this week and all that stuff. So
I have to go.
All right. I gotta go eat dinner too.
All right. Well, play us out.
Yeah, I've got let's see, how long is this? It's like a few minutes. A little conversation by a couple of guys from a while back. This is a pretty epic moment, really, when Bob, the other Bob, was the host of a meeting of minds.
Oh, no.
On a one-time only show called Between Two Jordans. And it was Jordan Peterson and Will Jordan, the Critical Drinker, and they discussed the film Starship Troopers, and I think that they had some very insightful things to say, and we'll check that out on the way out the door. I hope you all have a lovely week. Subscribe to Bob of the Old Ways. Subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to the Force Diversity podcast channel if you're watching on there, or if you're not. Subscribe to all those channels down in the down there thing. Okay. And
click the like button. Click the subscribe button.
Like. That's the thing too. Do that.
Check out patreon.com/actualfandom for more. And you
also
can this show for free.
I am writing a video again.
Ooh. Spicy.
Yeah. It's something that I realize that nobody has talked about and deserves to be anyway. It's definitely going to be one of those ones where it's like probably not so popular with like, lefties. But there'll be some people that have naysaying it, but I'll be naysaying my own theme in the thing anyway. So
Dane's How I Left the Left video.
Oh, here we go.
I already did that. I did that on April Fool's in like 2020. I did that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But this time it's real.
This time it's personal. This time
we'll see you all next week for reporting from Vici America, I guess.
From what? Huh?
Like
Vici America.
Yeah.
It's a World War II.
Yeah. In the meantime, check out. You'll see the Shillcast on Wednesday. I might stream again and do one of my own between now and then. Who knows? Have a good week. Peace.
Bye.
Welcome to Between Two Jordans, an in-depth conversation between two intellectual titans, Dr. Jordan B. Peterson and Will Jordan, better known as the Critical Drinker, and his very famous Not Jack Ryan books. Today we'll be discussing the cinematic touchstone, Starship Troopers.
Yes, I'd like to say that we're going to get a lot wrong in this conversation. Don't take anything I say as gospel, because what the hell do I know?
A lot of people say the Starship Troopers is a movie about things. Clearly, it's a movie about bugs.
Yes, it's true. It's about bugs, and the thing is that plants and bugs, the last thing our tyrannical idiots need to do, our panicked virtue-signaling government should be doing is directing their demented attention toward regulating what people serve at their tables. But it's plants and bugs for you and your children, peasants.
Walk!
One thing that's very interesting is that this movie shows a shared unisex restroom shower scene. What do you two think of that?
Well, I'm glad that we are talking about this, because to me, I believe this scene holds the sort of central thematic theme of the movie. For you see, for far too long in movies, men like me, totally straight guys, have been bombarded with imagery of female nudity. And with this groundbreaking moment, the director is equalizing female and male nudity so that we could all understand that dongs are awesome and no homo.
Yeah, well, you see that this is clearly somewhat of a optimal future for us because while it does appear that the men and the women are getting along, but at the same time, the women seem to share some kind of equality with the men. And, politically correct HR departments assault the archetype of the transcendent architecture of meaning based on their bloody intolerance for reason itself. So don't forget to wash your penis.
Trump is a E. coli feces addict. I'm not joking. Trump guzzles the feces of bacteria. He loves it. Of toxic E. coli bacteria. Elon Musk is an addict. He worships E. coli feces.